Chapter 1002. Wait a minute, when I was probing with my mental power, I heard that they were going to kill someone. Ha! Li Zhongjiu looked at Wan Yulan and saw Wan Yulan taking out a picture from one of the bodies. The person in the picture was Qi Yinran. Obviously, these people not only wanted to kill Li Zhongjiu, but also wanted to kill Qi Yinran. Fuck! Li Zhongjiu immediately stomped the half-dead body under his foot into smithereens. The two Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors continued to pursue the escaping people. The average strength of these life and death servants was only at the 3rd grade Origin Emperor realm. The person who attacked just now was slightly stronger, but he was only at the 6th grade Origin Emperor realm. With these abilities, they wanted to behave atrociously in front of Li Zhongjiu. No one knew where these people got their courage from. Li Zhongjiu directly rushed to the Qi clan. At this moment, the Qi clan was under attack by these people. When the 5 life and death servants broke into the Qi clan's territory, it was as if they had entered a no-man's land. They easily killed the Qi clan's guards who came to stop them. The Qi clan's elders quickly set up a formation, but it was easily blocked by one of the 5 life and death servants. Go summon the ancestral formation. The sudden appearance of these people made Qi Xiaohan understand that he needed to treat them seriously. If they continued to kill, the Qi clan would soon be annihilated. Want to run? I'm not interested in playing with you. Die. Elder Qi Feiyu turned around and wanted to open the ancestral formation, but the life and death servant directly struck him with a palm. Just this palm alone was enough to take Elder Qi Feiyu's life. After all, the difference in strength was obvious. Whoosh! Bang! A beam of white light came from afar and dispersed the power. Qi Yinran, dressed in white, descended from the sky and blocked the Qi clan's elders. Seeing Qi Yinran appear, the rest of the people also showed a smile. You finally appeared. If you had come out earlier, your Qi clan wouldn't have lost so many people. The life and death servants immediately laughed. Another person made a move, and the two joined forces to force Qi Yinran. Be careful, I'll deal with one. Qi Xiaohan approached Qi Yinran and said. He was also very curious about the weapon in Qi Yinran's hand. He felt that he had seen it somewhere before. Leave it to me. Qi Yinran blocked Qi Xiaohan, who was about to attack. She waved the Desolate Heaven Essence in her hand and shot it at the two of them. The whip formed from the Desolate Heaven Essence was extremely painful when it struck a person's body. Bang bang bang. The 3 of them were locked in battle. Although the life and death servants were powerful, they did not dare to rashly receive Qi Yinran's Desolate Heaven Essence. Qi Xiaohan and company saw Qi Yinran block the 2 experts by herself. They were also extremely shocked. Since when did Yinran have such good skills? This strength, when did he break through? Qi Xiaohan only felt that Qi Yinran's strength had broken through and become more powerful. But he didn't know to what extent Qi Yinran's strength had improved. Go. Even if it was a small team, there would still be a leader. The leader ordered and another person joined in to attack Qi Yinran. The addition of the 3 immediately increased the pressure on Qi Yinran. Moreover, the battle between the 4 of them immediately caused the surrounding fluctuations to become extremely dangerous. If one were to take the risk to barge in, they would be seriously injured if they were not careful. In such a crazy situation, even Qi Xiaohan did not dare to act rashly. The commotion is too big. Let's deal with her family. The 4th person also rushed out directly, and his purpose was not to fight with Qi Yinran. He never thought that Qi Yinran would have such ability. Killing Qi Xiaohan and company would definitely distract Qi Yinran and make her lose her strength. This was the effect he wanted. Family head, retreat. Seeing the 4th person rushing over, many elders of the Qi family also rushed forward and protected Qi Xiaohan behind them. Then all of you will die together. The life and death servant took out a triangular blade and stabbed it forward. How could Qi Xiaohan watch his family's elders die in front of him? He directly used his Yuan force and pushed the elders in front of him away. Get out of the way. I will fight it out with him. Qi Xiaohan summoned his Longevity Tree Original Spirit. The Longevity Tree Original Spirit seemed to have transformed into a treant. It stretched out countless branches and wrapped around the person in front of it. Family head, you can't. This was a way to self-destruct. After trapping the enemy and self-destructing in such a way, the enemy would not be able to escape. At least, it could guarantee that both sides would perish together. You want to perish together with me? The life and death servant sneered, and rushed into the trap set by Qi Xiaohun without hesitation. Boom! Suddenly, a lightning bolt struck down from the sky. It directly struck Qi Xiaohun. Qi Xiaohun's body was instantly paralyzed. The longevity tree's movement also became stiff. Seeing this, the life and death servant directly stabbed the triangular blade in his hand at Qi Xiaohun's chest. Ding! The Mitsubishi thorn seemed to have hit an iron plate, and a crisp sound of collision rang out. The life and death servant was stunned. When he looked at it, a figure appeared in front of him. Pung! The triangular blade in his hand was broken by a strange force. After it was broken, the figure stabbed the blade in his hand. The life and death servant quickly raised his hand to block. However, he was kicked in the chest and was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood. You're finally here. Qi Xiaohun's mouth was still trembling. His teeth were chattering. Next time, can you electrocute him? Li Zongjiu had intended to electrocute him. However, seeing Qi Xiaohun's self-destruct state, it seemed that he was almost ready. If he did not interrupt him, he might really explode. As long as his head did not explode, he could recover. Qi Xiaohun would have died for nothing. You can't die so casually now. Yinran, come back. Li Zongjiu said with a smile. Qi Yinran shook the desolate heaven essence in her hand and forced the three people in front of her back. She quickly returned to Li Zongjiu's side. At this moment, Qi Yinran was panting. Her body was dripping with sweat. The yuan power in her body had been depleted. Under such pressure, Qi Yinran had overdrawn her strength. It was not easy for her to last until now. Even Qi Yinran's body had a few hidden injuries. You're courting death. When Li Zongjiu saw the scars on Qi Yinran's arm, his eyes were already spewing out extremely terrifying flames. Captain, this person seems to be Li Zongjiu. The other four people also returned to the captain's side. Li Zongjiu? Good timing. Kill them all. Chapter 1003. Li Zongjiu glanced at the people in front of him. He frowned. To be honest, it's really hard for me to think of a solution. To torture you. There was a faint chill in his tone. Even Qi Yinran could not help but feel a little cold. Obviously, Li Zongjiu was really angry. The last time he was angry, it was because of the Ancient One. A mere Ancient One had dared to lay his hands on a member of the Li family. Everyone knew what had happened to the Ancient One, as well as the Gu family, who had protected the Ancient One. Everyone could not help but shudder at the thought of the tragic state the Gu family was in. Haha. You don't have to think about making an enemy out of the Black Canal Basilica. You won't live past tonight. As soon as he finished speaking, the five of them instantly moved as well. At the same time, they charged towards Li Zongjiu. The five of them joined forces, and could feel that the surrounding space was about to explode. With a wave of his hand, Li Zongjiu brought the man before him into his blood-soul hell. If they were to fight in the Qi family, everything in the Qi family would be destroyed, and there was a high chance that others would be hurt. When the five of them entered the blood-soul hell, they could feel the power of blood around them. At this moment, they were envious and excited because these people had climbed out of countless blood seas. The bloodier the scene and atmosphere, the more excited they were. They could treat this place as their home ground for battle. What an idiot. Your realm attribute is tailor-made for us. The leader of the life and death servants said. They had never seen such a situation. They could not believe that someone would be so suicidal. Is that so? Then you'll have to enjoy it. As soon as he finished speaking, behind Li Zongjiu, three gigantic dragon silhouettes suddenly appeared. Holding the black dragon hammer, they sneered and stared at the people in front of them. When they saw this scene, the five life and death servants were obviously shocked. Soon, from the surrounding blood sea, many blood ghosts immediately crawled out. After Li Zongjiu killed these blood ghosts, he directly buried them in the blood-soul domain and refined them into puppets that only had energy and could be controlled by Li Zongjiu at will. After entering the blood-soul hell, there had never been anyone who could come out alive. The five of them immediately felt great pressure. Li Zongjio seemed to be more powerful than the legend said. After an hour, Li Zongjio appeared in the Qi family's courtyard. When the Qi family members saw him, they were all shocked. Because 6 people disappeared at the same time, only Li Zongjio appeared in the end. Wasn't the meaning of this very obvious? They're all dead. Qi Xiaohun and the others looked at Li Zongjio and couldn't believe their eyes. The main reason was that Li Zongjio ended the battle too quickly. If the opponents wanted to escape, it wouldn't be a problem. However, in front of Li Zongjio, they still had no chance to escape. They're all enjoying it. Li Zongjio didn't actually do anything. He only crippled their cultivation, amplified their senses, and spared their lives. Every day, he let the countless blood ghosts gnaw on their bodies. And the next day, their bodies would be restored. It seemed to be an understatement, but when you really face it, you will feel the horror and despair. The feeling of wanting to die, but not being able to do so will be vividly felt. These people came for me. I didn't expect to bring you trouble. Li Zongjio also felt sorry. After all, this matter was indeed caused by Li Zongjio. He didn't expect these people to directly target Qi Yanran. Fortunately, he came in time today. These people were all dead. If he came a little later, the consequences would be unimaginable. There is no family that didn't grow up in the wind and rain. This is nothing. Qi Xiaohun said very frankly. Although this kind of thing was dangerous, it was also the danger that made people realize their own shortcomings. This way, they would work harder to improve their strength. They wouldn't sit here and think that they were infallible all day long. It was a good opportunity to let these people beat the Qi family. This matter, I will solve it as soon as possible. Li Zongjio said. How do you know they are here? Qi Yanran suddenly asked. When these people took action, they had directly isolated the Qi family's courtyard. This was a common method when they were carrying out tasks. If Li Zongjio wasn't nearby, it would be difficult for him to know what happened here. However, Li Zongjio came so quickly. Not good. Li Zongjio immediately remembered that Wan Yulan didn't follow them. If Wan Yulan's mental strength could detect the other party, they might have already detected Wan Yulan's traces. Now that Wan Yulan returned to the city, she would definitely be targeted by the other party. I will go first. You guys be careful, Li Zongjio said. Then he directly jumped up and immediately used his mental strength to search for Wan Yulan's whereabouts in the city. Soon, he found the traces left by Wan Yulan. Then he quickly chased after her. Qi Yanran saw Li Zongjio's hurriedly leaving and knew that something must have happened to Li Zongjio. These people were so arrogant that they dared to openly attack her family. Black Canal Basilica, you have provoked the wrong people. Qi Yanran's eyes were filled with a cold light. Tonight, the Qi family had escaped a disaster, but the danger they encountered was self-evident. It seemed that the situation in the continent was getting more and more dangerous. They had to increase the strength of the family as soon as possible. Qi Xiaohun was also worried sick. Although he was about to break through to the Origin Emperor realm, he was still a step away. The effect of the elixir was still suppressed in his body, and he didn't dare to make the final push. However, it seemed that if he continued to delay today, it would bring more trouble. I will go into seclusion for 3 days. All the family matters will be temporarily handled by the Great Elder. After saying that, Qi Xiaohun went into seclusion. Qi Yanran also didn't leave the Qi family. After swallowing the elixir, she stayed in the Qi family to take care of things. There might be people coming back in the next few days, so she had to be on guard. In the Qi family, excluding those old ancestors who had yet to come out of seclusion, currently the strongest one was Qi Yanran. Today's battle also allowed Qi Yanran to show her terrifying strength, which made the elders of the Qi family feel refreshed. She was indeed Li Zongjio's woman. Chapter 1004. Wan Yulan's figure landed on the ground and immediately disappeared. The surrounding power also entered a state of concealment at this moment, allowing Wan Yulan's figure to completely blend into the surroundings. It seemed that after landing, she had directly disappeared. 2 figures chased after her. When they landed, they realized that they had lost track of Wan Yulan. Can you escape? One of them sneered and brazenly pulled out his sword. Immediately, An extremely frightening power erupted and slashed down in front of him. Boom! Instantly, the terrifying saber chi smashed the road and the houses in front of him into pieces, as if they were rotten wood. A fierce gale passed through, ferocious as ever. Amidst the countless flying sand and rocks, a figure was finally forced out. The powerful force impacted Wan Yulan's defensive barrier, and also caused Wan Yulan's aura to be extremely chaotic. Her figure quickly retreated, wanting to escape into the distance. Whoosh! Who would have thought that another figure would appear behind him? The two of them, one in front and one behind, sandwiched Wan Yulan. You can't escape, right? How dare a member of the Wan family do something against the Xingyan dynasty? Your Wan family will be exterminated. The life and death servant recognized Wan Yulan. After all, these people were the focus of their attention, and even needed to be carefully monitored. In fact, there were even a few times when they were ready to take action. After all, how could the Black Canal Basilica not know the intentions of Wan Yonggong and the others? It was just that they didn't have the opportunity. Now that Wan Yulan had taken the initiative to come to their door, it gave them an ironclad evidence. After returning, they could immediately suppress the Wan family. Wan Yulan's eyes didn't have the slightest hint of panic. The two in front of her were third-grade primitive emperors. If they were to fight under normal circumstances, Wan Yulan could barely escape from the hands of one of them. Now that the two of them had joined hands, the chances of her escaping were very small. Unless she used a secret weapon. But that was only used as a last resort. Moreover, Wan Yulan, who had escaped along the way, had left behind countless traces of signals. It would only take a moment for reinforcements to arrive. He did not panic at all. Although she couldn't completely leave her life in someone else's hands, Wan Yulan felt that he would definitely be the one to do it. I advise you all to flee quickly. Otherwise, you may not even be able to return to the Haika dynasty. Wan Yulan looked at the two of them and said indifferently. However, in their eyes, Wan Yulan was just pretending to be calm. I've heard that the women of the Wan family all have short lives. Today, I'm going to enjoy how short your life is. Using women's blood to cultivate would be even more beneficial to them. What's more, this was the blood of a spirit master. It would be a waste to kill it. Just as the two of them were about to make their move, Wan Yulan laughed and said to the air, "You're here." Here. The two life and death servants sensed that there was no movement. Trying to scare us. Go. The two of them rushed towards Wan Yulan without hesitation. Who knew what tricks this woman would play? It was better to take her down first. Only then would they be more secure. After the two of them rushed up, they found that Wan Yulan was actually standing still. The scene was a little strange. However, the two of them still slashed towards Wan Yulan's head. Boom! Boom! Two lightning bolts fell from the sky. The emergence of the lightning lit up half of the sky. One of the life and death servants saw a shadow on the ground flashing past. However, the lightning had already locked onto them. There was no chance for them to escape. They could only use all their strength to block the attack. Bang! Bang! The two of them flew backwards. Their bodies were charred black. However, under the suppression of the two of them, they quickly returned to normal. Looking in front of them, a young man stood in front of them, holding a small black hammer in his hand. The lightning just now was summoned by this young man. Another one came to die. The two of them looked at each other. Although the lightning just now was powerful, it wasn't that easy to kill them. Are you okay? Li Zhongjie looked back at Wan Yulan, who looked a little embarrassed. This was probably the difference in strength. With Wan Yulan's strength, facing the two of them, the only way out was to escape. However, just now Li Zhongjie easily dealt with the four life and death servants. Wan Yulan had always thought that besides alchemy, the gap between her and Li Zhongjie should not be too big. Even in alchemy, Wan Yulan was not weak. It was just that she was not as outstanding as Li Zhongjie. She spent more energy on cultivating her mental strength. However, looking at Li Zhongjie now, there was almost nothing that the latter could not do. He was already an almost invincible existence. As long as Li Zhongjie was given time, as long as he could continue to live, there would be a supreme being in this world sooner or later. This supreme being was naturally Li Zhongjie. Unfortunately, What Wan Yulan did not know was that in his previous life, Li Zongjio had already reached the Supreme Being realm. Moreover, he was at the peak of the Supreme Being realm. He was invincible in the world. I'm fine. You have to be careful. Wan Yulan shook her head and said. After seeing Li Zongjio, she was willing to let go of the stone that was hanging in her heart. Even if it was someone else who came, Wan Yulan did not dare to be at ease. Such a psychological change also made Wan Yulan puzzled. How can this be? How can I have a sense of dependence on others? Wan Yulan thought in her heart. This kind of mood was really too strange. Li Zongjio looked at the 2 life and death servants. Including the 2 of you, there are a total of 10. How many people like you are there? Let them come together, so that I don't have to find them one by one. Li Zongjio said indifferently. 10 people? How did this kid know their number? Li Zongjio's words surprised the 2 of them. Could it be that this kid was actually bluffing? Or was it just a guess? How do you know the number of 10? At the beginning, I killed 2 in the suburbs and 1 escaped. Just now I killed 5 in the Qi family. Including the 2 of you, isn't that 10? So there are only 10 of you in total. Li Zongjio looked at the 2 in front of him. Alright, you 2 can go to hell first. Immediately, Li Zongjio waved his hand and brought the 2 of them into the blood soul hell. Like the people who had just started, the 2 of them were also excited. But soon, the 2 of them could not be excited anymore. 5 figures were trapped on top of a blood wall in front of them. Countless blood ghosts were tearing at their flesh and gnawing at them. Blood was dripping, but the flesh that was bitten off quickly grew back. This kind of living pain did not stop. Most importantly, these 5 people were the life and death servants. Chapter 1005. The situation in front of them had already scared them out of their wits. They had been vicious and merciless for so many years, and had long made a name for themselves. They had seen all kinds of ruthless people, but the current situation was clearly about to teach them a lesson. In other words, they had never seen such a situation before. There are 2 seats next to it. They're reserved for you. Li Zongjio's figure appeared. Without saying a word, he waved his hand and took away their weapons. The blood ghosts in the blood soul hell completely engulfed them. A moment later, 2 more figures appeared on the blood wall. Obviously, at the beginning, they were still able to retain some consciousness. But later, they would rather have no meaning now. They would rather have their souls scattered than continue to stay in such a place. Every second was like 10,000 years of torture. Li Zongjio left the blood soul hell. Wan Yulan, on the other hand, found a place to hide first. She did not immediately leave, nor did she immediately enter a state of healing. If she discovered that Li Zongjio had been killed in the end during the process of healing, she would definitely be killed. Wouldn't that be terrible? He wouldn't even have a chance to escape. Therefore, Wan Yulan maintained a vigilant state. When she saw Li Zongjio appear, she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. The moment she heaved a sigh of relief, a wave of dizziness immediately swept over her. Immediately, Wan Yulan lost her balance and fainted. Li Zongjio supported her and checked her condition. He found that Wan Yulan's condition was not serious. It was just that she had overdrawn her mental strength and was highly nervous, which caused her to collapse. Another woman. Looking at the unconscious Wan Yulan, Lin Fan felt a chill run down his spine. No matter how ruthless and cold Li Zongjio was, he could not just throw Wan Yulan to the ground. In the end, Li Zongjio could only bring her back first. He brought Wan Yulan to the White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao saw that his young master had brought back another woman. Find someone to settle her down. Li Zongjio handed Wan Yulan to Xiao Zhao. Young master, she's from the Haika dynasty. Just settle her down. She will recover on her own. Yes, young master. Xiao Zhao hurriedly asked someone to carry Wan Yulan away. The White Deer Manor was now vast, with more than 100 houses in the 4 courtyards. Just the number of guest rooms exceeded 2,000. After all, the White Deer Manor wouldn't be so simple in the future. When the time came, there would definitely be a lot of hangers-on coming to the manor. The so-called guests were idle cultivators. When they could not afford to support themselves, they would seek refuge from other forces and use their abilities to exchange for some benefits. In fact, the only proper guest in the White Deer Manor was Nangong Wuji, because he was invited by Li Zongjio and given some benefits. There was also Hong Shisan. This old man was not bad. Anyway, he was able to live until now because of Li Zongjio's help in avenging him. Although the Xianyuan sect was still around and had not been destroyed, sect master Gong Wuliang had already died in Li Zongjio's hands. Li Zongjio had already taken his revenge. There was no need to massacre the entire Xianyuan sect. Moreover, if they rashly attacked the sect, the situation would be uncertain. After all, a sect was a sect. Li Zongjio would not easily make a move unless he had no other choice. Back then, the Ardent Earth sect was really courting death. Therefore, Li Zongjio taught them a lesson. The lesson resulted in the destruction of the sect. This lesson was enough for them to remember for a lifetime. In this lifetime, after handing the person over to Xiao Zhao, Li Zongjio did not rest. Li Zongjio had obtained accurate information from the person from the Bloody Soul Hell. A total of 10 people had come this time. The strongest one was the guard captain who had escaped just now. Since he was already here, of course, he had to properly entertain this guard captain. The Blackwind Blood Shadow Condor summoned him in his mind. Li Zongjio quickly locked onto the location. This kid was really good at hiding. He was actually hiding in a rock cave under a river. Fortunately, the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condor was also a meta beast that was familiar with water. The two Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors had completely surrounded the person. Let's throw him out first. Li Zongjio's figure was in the air as he stared at the river below. After receiving the order, the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condor immediately launched an attack excitedly. Ever since they had arrived at the sacred Flame Royal City, although these meta beasts had been eating and drinking well, they had not fought for too long. Hence, their bones were inevitably a little stiff. To these meta beasts, this kind of bloody battle was the most enjoyable. Occasionally, they would be injured to stimulate their bloodlust. Beep! A clear and loud cry that was filled with penetrating power rang out. The river below suddenly exploded into a huge wave that was a few hundred meters tall. When the wave soared into the sky and fell back down, it turned into terrifying icicles that instantly fell down. It was as if countless cannonballs had been shot into the water. Bang, bang, bang. The guard captain, who was recovering in the water, immediately felt the earth shaking and the undercurrent surging. At the same time, there were countless icicles flying towards his body. This made the guard captain rather nervous. I've been discovered. The guard captain rushed out. When he saw the two Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors glaring at him in the sky, he was enraged. It's you two bastards. Today I'll cripple you. Immediately the guard captain, who was dressed in black, rushed into the sky. He used his vigorous Yuan power to fight with the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors. The Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors were of the wind and ice attributes. The two meta beasts continuously spat out waves of cold air. However, the guard captain was after all stronger. He raised his hand and blocked it. The Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors also continuously ate the guard captain's fists. The terrifying power directly sent the two Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors flying and smashed onto the ground. The two meta beasts fought even more fiercely. Even though they were already vomiting blood and their wings were broken, they still continued to pounce on the guard captain. They continued to pester the latter. The guard captain also suffered some serious injuries. His body had already been scratched by the sharp claws of the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors. However, these injuries were nothing to him. All of you back off. It's been half a day, and you can't even deal with a piece of trash. Li Zongjio saw that the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors were almost done pestering them. If this went on, there would probably be some injuries that were difficult to recover from. Minor injuries were not a problem. But if their origin was damaged, then Li Zongjio would have to spend a lot of energy to heal the injuries of these two fellows. That was really too troublesome. It's you. The guard captain of the Death Guard saw Li Zongjio appear. He immediately opened his eyes wide. Only then did he recall that there were two primitive emperor-level origin beasts in Li Zongjio's White Deer Manor. These must be the two origin emperors. Why didn't he think of it earlier? You don't have to run anymore. Gather with your companions. Li Zongjio waved his hand and released the Blood Soul Hell, sucking the guard in. Chapter 1006. In less than a night's time, the so-called sharp knife of Black Canal Basilica had been completely broken in the hands of Li Zhongjie. Such a team of 10 was so easily defeated by Li Zhongjie. Heica Dynasty Black Canal Basilica. These life and death servants would wear a life bead on them before they left to carry out a mission. The life bead was not very useful, but it could retain the feedback of the status of life. Even if they were in two different places, they could quickly know the situation of the casualties. It seems that the situation is not very good. 2 of them have already died. The Bishop of Black Canal Sacred Hall looked at the 10 life origin beads in the cabinet in his hand. 2 of them had already been extinguished, while the remaining 8 beads were slightly dimmer than before. But there are at least 8 of them. It shouldn't be a problem to deal with Li Zhongjie. I don't know what will happen if these people are released. Although they are crazy, I don't think they will cause too much trouble. At least on the level of the Shengyan dynasty, they will definitely not be affected. The Shengyan dynasty has a genius like Li Zhongjie, so it will be difficult for them to calm down. It's a good opportunity to use our hands to destroy Li Zhongjie. Yes, let's just wait for the news. Other than counting the offerings that were sent up from below and sitting down to cultivate, the bishops had nothing else to do. Most of the affairs of the dynasty were handled by the imperial court, but if it involved money, manpower, everything had to be reported to the Black Canal Basilica. Little did they know that these people were still enjoying the peace in the Heica dynasty. However, Li Zhongjie had already taken care of all the life and death servants that had been sent out. However, these people were completely unaware. Shengyan dynasty, Wuxia city. When Tianfei arrived with the Skyblaze Lion and Skyblaze Python, Li Tianqing could not believe his eyes. The Skyblaze Lion and the Skyblaze Lion were also staring at each other. This is the legendary Skyblaze Lion. Li Tianqing rubbed his eyes. He wanted to go up and pat the Skyblaze Lion's paw, but he dared not. The Heavenly Blaze Lion King technique that Li Tianqing cultivated was derived from the Heavenly Blaze Lion King. Someone had created such a primordial technique by imitating it. Li Tianqing couldn't believe that he would be able to see Yi Futian in person one day. This was probably how he felt. He felt like he was meeting a saint. How dignified was the Skyblaze Lion? How could it be touched by a mere human? However, Li Zhongjie had already set up this mental command. No matter how arrogant or powerful one had to bow their heads in front of Li Zhongjie, because Li Tianqing was Li Zhongjie's father. Hence, the Skyblaze Lion could not help but raise its paw and touch Li Tianqing's. Oh, it's real. This big guy is really powerful. Li Tianqing was so excited that he was spinning on the spot. He looked extremely excited. It was as if he was a child. How old are you? You're still like a child. Lady Shen walked out and saw Li Tianqing's excited look. How is Zhongjie now? How is he doing in the Sacred Flame Imperial City? Did anyone bully him? Go back and tell him that we don't have to go to the Imperial City. It's fine as long as he's fine. Lady Shen said to Tianfei. You bitch, what are you thinking? Zhongjie is so capable now. Of course, he has to bring our Li family to greater heights. Li Tianqing was instantly unhappy. His son was so promising. Of course, he had to lead the family to greater heights. That way, he would not let his ancestors down. Li Tianqing's father also had such hopes for Li Tianqing back then. However, Li Tianqing was not as capable as Li Zhongjie. To be able to lead the Li family to the current situation, Li Tianqing had already done his best. He did not expect that such a terrifying monster like Li Zhongjie would appear. Of course, he had to cherish it. You heartless man. You can't bear to see your child suffer outside. Lady Shen said angrily. What's wrong with a man suffering a little? Who doesn't suffer? Since you're here, you should stay here for a few more days. Tell us about Zhongjie's recent situation. Let's have a few more drinks tonight. That's settled. Li Tianqing pulled Tianfei over directly. He did not allow any refusal. Tianfei was an orphan since he was young. He was brought back to the Xianyuan sect. Now that he was betrayed by the sect, he had long been disheartened by the sect. However, working under Li Zhongjie, the master and madam treated him like family. This was from the bottom of his heart. It also made Tianfei feel incomparably touched. Although the Li family was not the family that raised him, it was a place that truly treated him with sincerity. Tianfei secretly swore in his heart that even if he died, he would protect the Li family. The Skyblaze Lion King and the Skyblaze Python King's bodies were huge, so it was not easy to put them down. Not to mention the appearance of the Sky Hell Python. They had been raising their heads and staring at the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle in the backyard. The golden-winged blue-tailed eagle swayed its tail gently. In the backyard, it did not dare to move at all. It did not even dare to breathe in the face of the two Origin Emperor Realm meta-beasts. Although their master was Li Zongjio, however, the difference in levels was simply too great. How would it dare to act recklessly? After a discussion, they also let the two meta-beasts live in the Wuxia alchemy sect. The Wuxia alchemy sect's territory was big enough. It was best to let the two meta-beasts stay there. Moreover, the environment was more suitable. If something happened in Luoxia City, with the speed of the two meta-beasts, it would not take long for them to arrive. The Wuxia alchemy sect welcomed these two great gods. From top to bottom, no one dared to make a sound. The current Wuxia alchemy sect had not changed much. It was just that they were more careful and fawning on the Li family. If they did not fawn on the Li family within a radius of 10,000 miles, they could only wait to be destroyed. If they did not have this little bit of foresight, they would not be able to do anything. If the Li family was unhappy, no one would be willing to do business with them. Not only would they destroy your family, but they would also cause you to close down. Invisible forces were the most terrifying. The Li family gradually did not have to worry about food and clothing. The most important thing now was to improve their strength. At the same time, some distant relatives of the Li family, who had left, also gradually returned to the Li family. After all, the Li family had existed for more than 500 years. Some of those who weren't doing too well basically came back directly, causing the Li family's reputation to gradually grow. Of course, for these people who returned, they also needed to be carefully managed. Otherwise, the Li family that had developed with great difficulty would be dragged down by these people sooner or later. Chapter 1007. White Deer Manor. Under the night sky, a figure quietly landed. As soon as the figure landed, it was completely hidden in the darkness. It was like a little wild cat. Over the past few days, Zhang Jin had been keeping a close eye on White Deer Manor. Coincidentally, Li Zongjio seemed to be in trouble today, so Zhang Jin personally made a move. White Deer Manor was deathly silent. It was obvious that they were in a state of alert. Moreover, there was a lot of commotion in the city at night. It was obvious that some experts were fighting. Although Buried Gold didn't investigate the situation in detail, he knew that Li Zongjio wasn't in the White Deer Manor. At the same time, it seemed that the few meta-beasts were not in the manor either. Zhang Yin and Zhang Tong had disappeared. Therefore, Zhang Jin was extremely curious about White Deer Manor. The two of them might have been captured, and were most likely trapped in White Deer Manor. Therefore, Zhang Jin took advantage of this free time to investigate. With Zhang Jin's ability, it was easy for him to enter such a manor. All the guards could be said to exist in name only. They did not notice anything at all. Although he was confident in his heart, he did not relax in the slightest in the enemy's territory. There was no movement in the outer layer. Zhang Jin immediately walked into the depths of White Deer Manor. When he passed by a garden, Zhang Jin immediately felt that something was wrong. White Deer Manor's guard headquarters. Immediately, the alarm went off, and many people reacted. Someone had actually invaded the White Deer Manor, and in a moment, everyone stood up. In the 8 trigrams garden in the central courtyard, Lupe roared. The guards in the manor were arranged from the military camp, so they reacted quickly. This kind of security work was naturally more reassuring to leave to one's own people. Coincidentally, Li Yun was also cultivating in the manor. During the day, Li Yun would appear in the underground black market and deal with matters in the Ghost King Palace. Generally, Li Yun didn't need to deal with anything personally. She only needed to give instructions to her subordinates. For example, last time, regarding the Hua family, Li Yun just gave a simple order and immediately passed it down. Then, A letter from Ghost King Palace was sent directly to the Hua family. The Hua family didn't dare to move at all. It was so fierce that it was unimaginable. The reputation of the Ghost King Palace seemed to be quite impressive. Someone actually broke into the maze formation. It must be an intruder. Li Yun opened the disk array. This 8 trigrams secret sect formation was jointly researched and created by Li Yun and Nangong Wuji. Using the characteristics of the surrounding buildings and the attributes of the plants, they arranged this maze formation to trap the enemy. Once the enemy was trapped in this maze formation, they would keep going back and forth. No matter what, they wouldn't be able to get out of this maze formation. They would become fish on the chopping block. Xiao Zhao soon received a report from his subordinates that someone had broken into the manor. Immediately, Xiao Zhao came to the 8 trigrams maze formation under the protection of Lu Pei and the others. He happened to see Zhang Jin, who was dressed in black, moving stealthily. Zhang Jin's every move was quite covert. He tiptoed and his body was very light. However, he didn't know that all of Zhang Jin's actions had been exposed to the eyes of others. They saw everything clearly. Quickly take him down, Li Yun said. Her subordinates were ready to take action, but Xiao Zhao stopped them. Wait a minute. We don't know how strong this person is. Since he dares to break into the White Deer Manor at night, he must not be simple. Quickly go and get Elder Nangong. Xiao Zhao also had the authority to control the primitive emperor-level meta-beasts. At this moment, he also knew that the 2 meta-beasts and Li Zongjie were outside. In the entire White Deer Manor, Nangong Wuji was the strongest person. All right. Li Yun nodded. Lu Pei immediately sent someone to get Nangong Wuji. The rest of the people were lying in ambush outside. They didn't act rashly. He seems to have realized that something is wrong. Li Yun tried to change the contents of the 8 trigrams maze formation again, so that Nangong Wuji wouldn't be able to tell what was real and what was false. He would be wandering around the formation. Even if he wanted to see the flaws of the formation, it wouldn't be that easy. Li Yun also added some other things to the formation. As for these formations, they were obtained from the remnants of the formation scroll that Li Zongjie had given her. As her experience in formations increased, Li Yun also realized the power of the remnants of the formation scroll that Li Zongjie had given her. It was so terrifying. Oh no, I'm afraid we've fallen into a trap. Zhang Jin, who was lying in ambush, also stopped at this moment. When he was moving, he didn't even destroy the grass and trees around him. He tried his best to protect the integrity of the surroundings. This was the style of a top-notch expert. He came and went without a trace, leaving no trace at all. Little did they know that Zhang Jin was acting like a stage play. All of their movements were exposed right under their noses. Zhang Jin finally realized that something was wrong. It was because he suddenly realized that the garden was too big. It was fortunate that he only realized it now. We can't stay here for long. Retreat. When Elder Zhang Jin sensed that something was wrong, he immediately wanted to escape. Whoosh! Zhang Jin's figure instantly flew backward. When Zhang Jin's figure sped up, the power around him also sped up. The changes in the grass and trees were also completely seen by Zhang Jin. Bang! The changes in the surroundings directly sent Zhang Jin flying. Li Yun controlled the formation and urged the power of the formation to sweep towards Zhang Jin. At the same time, there seemed to be a fog appearing under her feet. This fog contained strong poison. No matter how strong one's cultivation was, if one breathed in too much of it, they would directly faint. This was because Li Yun got these formulas from Li Zongjie. They were specially used to deal with these experts, and could make them lie down one after another. Damn it! Roaming dragon stab! Zhang Jin exclaimed. Then, his figure transformed into a dragon, and suddenly rushed forward. Rumble! With a loud bang, Zhang Jin directly smashed a hole in the formation. Originally, there was a rockery in front of him. However, Zhang Jin, who was a second-level expert, smashed through the rockery and broke free. Inescapable net. Lu Pei gave the order. The guards under him immediately used Raging Dragon capturing flames. Bang! 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 More than 10 explosions rang out in succession. Then the fire nets flew out one after another. The second-generation Raging Dragon capturing flames contained a rather strong fire net. Ordinary Yuan monarchs would have to expend a lot of energy to break free from it. Even before they could break free, they would have already been blasted into smithereens by the other party. However, the moment these fire nets shot out, they did not cause any trouble for Zhang Jin. This was because their speed was really too slow. Zhang Jin very easily escaped from these attacks. Since you are already here, why are you in such a hurry to leave? An old voice rang out in the sky above White Deer Manor. It seemed to have turned into rolling thunder. Nangong Wuji, the person who had been tearing down and building things in White Deer Manor all day, had finally shown his strength at this moment. An 8th grade primitive emperor was enough to look down on the heavens. Yet he was still doing this kind of hard work in such a place. It was simply unbelievable. Zhang Jin felt the powerful strength of the other party and was slightly surprised. However, so what if he was an 8th grade primitive emperor? He still could not do anything to him. How unlucky! Zhang Jin immediately stomped his foot, and his body turned into countless black lights in an instant, rushing in all directions. Nangong Wuji also waved his hand. The power of the primitive emperor realm immediately shattered the black lights in front of him. However, one of the lights was extremely strong. With a gentle touch, it flew out. It suddenly accelerated. Chapter 1008. After the light accelerated, it disappeared without a trace. Even Nangong Wuji could not catch up with it. Isn't his speed of escape a bit too fast? Nangong Wuji looked in the direction of the light in surprise. Of course, if he caught up with the light, he might be able to gain something. However, if the light turned back halfway, or if there were other ambushes in the surroundings, it would be a very dangerous situation for White Deer Manor. Therefore, in order to make sure nothing went wrong, Nangong Wuji would not leave White Deer Manor easily. At least, he would not wander around when there was no other force. I have never seen or heard of this person's movement skill in the Xingyan dynasty. It is very likely that he is from another dynasty. Nangong Wuji was a veteran expert who had been in Jianghu for many years. Naturally, he could tell what kind of movement skill this person had. He is not from the Xingyan dynasty. Xiao Zhao frowned. Recently, Li Zongjio had ordered to investigate the movements of the Haika dynasty. Obviously, he was very interested in the movements there. Since the mysterious expert was not from the Xingyan dynasty, it was very likely that he was from the Haika dynasty. He is too arrogant. How dare he sneak into White Deer Manor? As long as he is in Monarch City, I will definitely catch him. Li Yun was obviously very angry. These people from the Haika dynasty, it was fine if they said that they were from another dynasty, but they thought that this was their home. Did they think that the people of the Li family had no temper and could be bullied by them? My formation needs to be repaired as well. Elder Zhang Jin easily smashed a hole in the formation. This showed how strong the opponent was. Of course, the formation also had some flaws, which led to such a situation and result. In the sky, the 3 figures returned directly. They landed on White Deer Manor. Li Zongjio landed and came to the front of the crowd. The Blackwind Blood Shadow Eagle returned to its nest to recuperate. When it came back, it had already given them a few elixirs. What happened? These people were all gathered together, and the atmosphere was extremely chaotic. He had only gone out for a short while. Could it be that he had been ambushed? Li Zongjio could not help but frown. Xiao Zhao also reported the matter. If that's the case, then the people who came should be from the ancient Zong family of the Haika dynasty. They're the 2 people who escaped earlier. Taifai naturally went to the inn to set up an ambush. He wanted to control these people and not let them escape, but all of them were injured. He didn't even see the other party's shadow. Later on, they naturally found these people. There were a total of 4 people, and one of them was a disabled person. Don't worry, young master. Xiao Zhao will definitely find him. Okay, go ahead. After dismissing the crowd, Li Yan also said a few words to Li Zongjio before she left. Li Yan was very obsessed with the cultivation of formations. Coupled with her talent, she liked to immerse herself in it very much. Moreover, the other party had forcefully created a huge flaw in the 8 trigrams maze formation. If they wanted to, they could easily escape from the formation. It might be able to deal with ordinary thieves, but it was unrealistic to deal with experts of this level. It was because of this that she had to seize the time to cultivate and research it. After all the formations in White Deer Manor were set up by Li Yun. Out of Li Zongjiu's trust, he naturally had to do this well. Did you offend the ancient Zong family of the Haika dynasty? Nangong Wuji looked at Li Zongjiu with a solemn expression. It was clear that this was not a small matter. In Nangong Wuji's eyes, if he was the slightest bit careless, he would be in big trouble. The name of the ancient Zong family had appeared in books a long time ago. He did not expect that he would be lucky enough to meet such a legendary family leader. It was unbelievable. It was as if he was watching a character walk out of a book. Even Nangong Wuji had never come into contact with anyone from the ancient Zong family, but he had just fought against them. However, based on how the person had fled, Nangong Wuji did not fear him at all. He had escaped with ease, and Nangong Wuji did not even have the chance to catch up to him. If he had fought against him head-on, it was hard to say who would have won. Nangong Wuji was originally quite confident, but when he learned that the person was from the ancient Zong family, he gradually felt an invisible pressure in his heart. It was the influence of his reputation. Why are you panicking? Li Zongjiu cast a glance at Nangong Wuji. Who's panicking? Why would I panic? When I, Nangong Wuji, roamed the world, you weren't even born yet. I've seen everything. Nangong Wuji said proudly. This was the only thing he could slightly suppress Li Zongjiu. Otherwise, he would not be able to compete with Li Zongjiu. At that moment, Nangong Wuji realized that if he went up against Li Zongjiu, only death would await him. Fortunately, Nangong Wuji was born late. If he had been born in the same era as Nangong Wuji might not have been able to compete with him. Get ready. After some time, we'll be going to the Haika dynasty. Li Zongjiu cast a glance at Nangong Wuji. Huh? What? Going to the Haika dynasty? Why are we going there? Panic instantly appeared in Nangong Wuji's eyes, and there was a look of disbelief on his face. He wondered if Li Zongjiu was bragging or trying to scare him. I forgot to tell you. Not only did the ancient Zong family send someone to assassinate me, but the Black Canal Basilica from the Haika dynasty also has a grudge against me. Li Zongjiu shrugged and said. He seemed to have an innocent look on his face. It was as if he was the one who provoked him first. When he heard about the Black Canal Basilica, Nangong Wuji froze. Nangong Wuji froze on the spot. You mean, Black Canal Basilica? Nangong Wuji widened his eyes. When he was young, he was not afraid of anything. He even went to the wasteland to increase his strength. Later on, he suffered a setback and hid in the sacred flame royal city to heal his injuries. However, Nangong Wuji had always known what kind of existence the Black Canal Basilica was. It was an existence on the same level as the royal family of the Xingyan dynasty. Why would Nangong Wuji travel thousands of miles to get rid of it? I say, you can't be serious. Are you really going to deal with the Black Canal Temple? Are you kidding me? Don't worry. I'll pay you handsomely. When I come back, I'll make pills for you. Make pills. When Nangong Wuji heard this condition, his determined expression immediately turned into one of hesitation. You are also. Chapter 1009. Zhang Jin, who had escaped, was terrified. After all, there were too many unexpected things. Moreover, he had been in the enemy's formation for such a long time without realizing it. It also made Zhang Jin feel the hidden strength of the Li family. It was extremely terrifying. And it was definitely not as simple as it seemed. This Li Zongjiu is poisonous. Zhang Jin brought Zhang Tai, and the two of them quietly left Sacred Flame Royal City. This mission was not easy, so they had to go back and regroup first. If they really could not do it, then they would go to the Qian family again and ask them to increase the price. Just this trip alone had cost them so many people. For the ancient Zong family, it was also a huge sacrifice. This mission was a huge loss. As for Zhang Yin and Zhang Tong, who had been captured, they were probably dead. After all, with this kind of thing happening, it was not strange for the enemy to want to kill the two of them with their strength. The Zhang family left Sacred Flame Royal City, Xiao Zhao and Li Yun used their power and practically turned the Xingyan dynasty upside down several times. But they still could not find any trace of these people. In the end, the Li family in Sunset City sent them a secret letter. Only then did they know that the ancient Zhang family had left the Xingyan dynasty. Although they managed to escape, it was still better than letting these people stay in the city and wait for an opportunity to attack. The problem of the life and death servants was also solved. There was no problem at all. It was settled so easily. This was also something that Wan Yulan did not expect. Li Zongjie was so strong, and he seemed to be fearless in Sacred Flame Royal City. In fact, Li Zongjie did not gather too much power, and he had not really attacked yet. The entire Sacred Flame Royal City was quiet for a month. When Wan Yulan found out that Li Zongjie's White Deer Manor was recruiting guests, she immediately signed up. With the latter's strength, it was easy for him to become a guest of White Deer Manor. As for the price, it was handled by Xiao Zhao. As long as the price was set, White Deer Manor would be able to pay for it. Within a month, Li Zongjie had also refined many pills for the Qi family. But recently, the Qi family seemed to have encountered some trouble. Last time, Li Zongjie had humiliated the Hu family. Originally, after Li Yun intervened, the Hu family gave face to the Ghost King Palace. After all, the Ghost King Palace was specially approved by the royal family. Even the Hu family, who controlled the Green Dragon Army, did not dare to act recklessly. As for why the Ghost King Palace had such power, it was hard to say. But this time, the Qi family had recently purchased a primordial stone mine at a high price. However, this primordial stone mine was a confluence mine and overlapped with another mine. The other family's power was not small either. Most importantly, this family was related to the Hu family by marriage, and the surrounding area was under the jurisdiction of the Green Dragon Army. When something happened, the Green Dragon Army naturally took the initiative to intervene. If the Green Dragon Army was unhappy, they would directly seal off the area around the mine and declare that this was a secret area. No matter how powerful one would not be able to enter. This was how arrogant and overbearing they were. Even if one went to appeal, it would take a lot of time and energy just to go through the whole process. Although they could not directly take away one's mining rights, they could set countless obstacles on the way and take one's life at any time. The Qi family was a little busy recently. Moreover, they had never thought of relying on Li Zongjie's power to strengthen themselves. Once they became dependent on him, it would be a fatal blow to the Qi family. Maybe they would directly become a subordinate family of the Li family. The Qi family's hundreds of years of foundation would be wasted just like that. However, a series of troublesome things finally took a turn for the better today. In the mountain behind Bailu Manor, Qi Yanran and Li Zongjie stood side by side. Beside them were some elders of the Qi family, including Qi Xiaohun. On the other side, Xiao Zhao accompanied Song Jiyu. Nangong Wuji was originally not interested, but when he heard that so many people had come, he also went to watch. Wan Yulan stood beside Nangong Wuji and the others. Hong Shisan was also there. Many important people had arrived. Okay. Xiao Zhao gestured. Suddenly, a loud sound came from the ground in front of them. Then the ground caved in, and a huge pit appeared in front of them. Be careful. Such a big movement made the people of the Qi family nervous. They almost rushed to protect the family head. But Qi Xiaohun waved his hand. Things were different now. Qi Xiaohun's secret breakthrough to the Origin Emperor realm was not known to the outside world. Only a few people in the Qi family knew about it, but Li Zongjie definitely knew about it. Dust filled the sky in front of them, and sand and stones were flying everywhere. It was terrifying. At the same time, a powerful airwave spread out, as if tens of thousands of air cannons were fired at the same time. Huge. Boom! A strange-looking battleship soared into the sky. Its speed was extremely fast, and it was produced in an instant. When the battleship soared into the sky, everyone was immediately shocked. They couldn't even see the appearance of the battleship clearly. They saw the black battleship flying out. This was the first experiment. The newest battleship looked like a big bird. This prototype was provided by Li Zongjie. In the future, it would be generally dominated by this type of battleship. High defense, fast speed, strong mobility, and extremely agile. It would take at least 400 to 500 years to design such a battleship. Li Zongjio, on the other hand, directly proposed this idea. Everyone present was an expert, so they were able to understand the situation immediately. At the same time, Li Zongjio spent at least hundreds of billions of purple yuan in these 2 months to fund the research, and all the money was paid by the White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao calculated the account book every day, and almost couldn't sleep for the whole day. When she opened her eyes, she would have to spend billions of purple yuan for nothing. Tell me, what should I do about this matter? Fortunately, Li Zongjio gave her a heads up. No matter how much money she had to spend, she would do it without hesitation. Therefore, after a lot of research, they finally built this battleship. This battleship is called the Eagle Battleship. Zheng Haoran, who was in charge of the explanation, was also excited. When he finally saw the finished product fly into the sky, he was so excited that his heart was about to jump out of his chest. Finally, it was a success. Let's test the attack power, Li Zongjio said, and then snapped his fingers. 2 black figures immediately flew down from the mountain. Chapter 10:10. The 2 black shadows that swooped down were the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors. Zheng Haoran's eyes were filled with nervousness. This was the first Eagle battleship that he had spent hundreds of billions of purple yuan to build. If he didn't have any real ability, he would be letting down Li Zongjio and many others. The ones controlling the Eagle battleship were Zheng Kong, Li Yun and other excellent pilots. The reason why he let Li Yun go up was to let Li Yun know clearly that the power of the Eagle battleship wasn't that simple. Therefore, there must be someone who knew how to tell Li Zongjio how powerful the Eagle battleship was. This was to ensure that this plan wouldn't be aborted so quickly. This was just the first generation. There were still several generations waiting for it. So, boom! The Eagle battleship had more than 10 cannons of this size, and there was also a launching cabin. As for the things stored in the launching cabin, it would be stored according to different situations. Think about it. If you were in a quiet wilderness and a powerful bomb was thrown down, it could instantly raze your family to the ground. In a matter of minutes, your family would be completely destroyed. This was the most terrifying thing. How many people would be able to withstand such a sudden attack? The Eagle battleship and the 2 Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors were also entangled for a moment. But the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors were really powerful. With their sharp claws, it only took a few continuous attacks to break the defensive shield of the Eagle battleship. When the last layer of the defensive shield was torn apart, the Eagle battleship instantly rose up. Boom! In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the night sky. This is an escape device. It can instantly consume the energy of a high-grade primordial stone to reach 10 times the normal speed. Even the Origin Emperor level flying soul beast couldn't catch up with it, Zheng Haoran said. At this moment, his heart was surging and he couldn't calm down. When the others saw this scene, they were all shocked. What the hell is this? Fuck. After Qi Shaohun and the others saw this scene, they couldn't close their eyes at all. The performance of the Eagle battleship was clearly seen just now. Qi Shaohun and the others also knew that the appearance of the Eagle battleship would bring a great shock to the warship fleet. It would even change the way the warship battles in the future. Too fierce. Too shocking. This should be at least a few hundred years, or even thousands of years later. How did Li Zongjio's brain contain such things? This is only the first generation. There are still many areas that haven't been improved. Later on, there will be gradual improvements, Zheng Haoran said shyly. If the research was successful, everything would be fine. This was a matter of life and death for the Zheng family. If it was successful, they would go to hell if it was not successful. But now, it seems that it was successful. Everyone was shocked. Even Nangong Wuji didn't know what had happened. When did you guys dig a hole? Nangong Wuji was extremely shocked. These people were too much. They actually dug such a big hole in his territory, and didn't even tell him about it. Of course, the appearance of the Eagle battleship was even more shocking. Wan Yulan was completely stunned. Could it be that the Xingyan dynasty's development had reached such a stage? They even developed such an abnormal battleship. In the past, in order to ensure the stability and power of the battleship, a huge amount of primordial stones were used to make the battleship bigger and stronger. It was like a floating city. Many designers even thought that this would be the future development direction. But the Eagle battleship displayed by the White Deer Manor, Wan Yulan saw it clearly. This kind of fast-paced battleship was almost miraculous in sneak attacks. These people are too frightening. If they didn't come to the Xingyan dynasty by accident, they would have joined the White Deer Manor by accident. It was impossible for them to discover such a thing. It was believed that this thing was absolutely hidden from Li Zongjio. A figure slowly descended. Only now did the crowd see the Eagle battleship at a close distance. From the front, they could really feel the murderous aura from the Eagle battleship. The crowd saw a cabin door open. Li Yun, Elder Zheng Kong, and the others walked down from the battleship. Around the body of the Eagle battleship, there were already very intense burn marks. Cough cough. When we were escaping, the speed of the detonation was too slow. The safety measures were not good enough. My neck was almost broken. Also, the angle of the third attack position was not good enough. While walking, Zheng Kong kept talking about the parts that needed to be improved. There was a person behind him who was specially taking notes. Obviously, he was obsessed. At present, if we want to pilot the Eagle battleship and enter a perfect combat state, we need at least 5 battleship pilots to operate it together. This is the chief designer, Elder Zheng Kong. Zheng Haoren said. He also used this last sentence as an ending to lead the topic to Zheng Kong. At this moment, they looked like they had just been fished out of the water. Their bodies were soaked. Obviously, the interior of the battleship was not so comfortable. Elder Zheng Kong did a good job. Haoren introduced him. Li Zongjio said. Then, Zheng Kong also met Qi Xiaohun, Nangong Wuji and the others. After knowing that there were so many big shots present today, he couldn't help but feel nervous. After all, there were still many problems with the Eagle battleship. When a layman saw this thing, he might say fuck. But when an expert saw this thing, he would know the fatal flaws in it. Even the flaws in it could be seen at a glance. Therefore, in front of these experts, it was better to keep a low profile. This Eagle battleship will definitely shake the whole dynasty. Qi Xiaohun said excitedly. Everyone, let's move to the living room. Li Zongjio said. After the tour of the battleship, of course, it was time to talk about business. During the research and development stage, these few companies were the ones who were paying for it. Song Jiyu also put in a lot of effort. Recently, the pressure on the performance of the battleship was getting bigger and bigger. Many of her old customers were also poached away. They seemed to have noticed that her side was weak and started to gradually move away. If Li Zongjio's side also failed, it would be a fatal blow to Song Jiyu, because she also used too many resources to invest in it. Fortunately, she believed that Li Zongjio's vision was correct. This Eagle battleship will definitely become famous in one shot. This potential market will be worth trillions. Song Jiyu's eyes began to turn red. Chapter 10-11. In the White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao had already listed out the criteria and benefits of each party. All aspects of the matter had been settled. After all, the relationship between these families was good. Even if they could occupy a share, it was already a great opportunity. Otherwise, how could it be their turn? Just being able to take the initiative was already a very good treatment. Li Zongjio didn't participate in the specifics of the negotiations and how many benefits they would obtain. The emergence of the Eagle battleship was a big step ahead. Therefore, the technology must be thoroughly protected. If it was stolen, it would be equivalent to Li Zongjio losing several thousand purple yuan. Therefore, these people of the Zheng family must be protected. On this point, Xiao Zhao had already sent people to take care of it. Although their relationship was good, they still had to be on guard. Not only did they have to guard against the Zheng family, but they also had to be on guard against the people from the other families. After all, even in peaceful times, there were still many bad people. Li Zongjio was not in the meeting hall, so Qi Yanran naturally did not go. Otherwise, the Qi family might take advantage of this relationship and ask for an exorbitant price. Qi Yanran also did not want to make things too difficult for Li Zongjiu. The two of them were taking a stroll in the courtyard when they saw Ling Yin running in anxiously. "I've finally found you. You really hid very well." Ling Yin rushed into the White Deer Manor. These days, he came to find Li Zongjiu several times in a row, but Li Zongjiu had been in closed-door training. This guy seemed to have nothing else to do. He was cultivating all day long. Today he finally found him. "What's wrong?" Qi Yanran saw Ling Yin so nervous, and could not help but ask. She thought something had happened. "Tomorrow is the day of the competition. We agreed that no matter what, you have to do this for me. You have to go and give them a lesson." Ling Yin was already prepared to use a rope to tie Li Zongjiu up. Even if he had to forcefully kidnap him, he had to take Li Zongjiu away today. "Ah, right, I forgot." Li Zongjiu had also been cultivating these days. It just so happened that there were no small fries to disturb him, so Li Zongjiu simply calmed down and cultivated. At the same time, he was waiting for the right time to go to the Haika dynasty to deal with some matters. Most of the information from the Haika dynasty came from Wan Yulan. With Wan Yulan maintaining the communications, there was no problem. "I'm going to give them a lesson." "Go ahead then." "Speaking of this competition, I'm the senior sister leading the team. Your Heavenly Day Medicine Manor had better not lose," Qi Yanran said with a hint of provocation. Li Zongjiu naturally laughed. This kind of thing was hard to say. After all, the one participating in the next competition would not be Li Zongjiu. If Li Zongjiu participated, it would be guaranteed that they would win. Now, he was just going to give a lesson and impart some experience. Of course, he could not guarantee the final result. He followed Ling Yin to the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. When he returned to the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor, Li Zongjiu did not feel much. As for the Genius Pavilion, there was no need to go there now. Some of the things inside would naturally be left to the juniors of the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. It would be inappropriate to rashly destroy the balance and the original rules. Senior Li Zongjiu personally taught the lesson. When Li Zongjiu walked into the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor, he immediately saw a huge banner hanging on the roof. After seeing the banner, Li Zongjiu finally understood why Ling Yin was so anxious and wanted to catch him so badly. It turned out that the words had already been said. If he did not call him over, it would be a loss of face. One had to admit that Ling Yin was really skilled and daring. He actually dared to make such a guarantee. Now, in the Sacred Flame Royal City, only Ling Yin had the confidence to invite Li Zongjiu to attend such events. The other person was Elder Su Hong of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. He still had to give them face. However, Su Hong was even more cautious. He couldn't call Li Zongjiu for everything. If he provoked Li Zongjiu's disgust, then wouldn't the gains outweigh the losses? Unlike Ling Yin, when Li Zongjiu appeared in front of the freshmen, everyone began to talk about it. Nan Peixian also took the time to come and listen. This disciple of a big family, who was good at reading people's expressions, had obviously succumbed to Li Zongjiu's prestige. He had no choice but to curry favor with Li Zongjiu. He had to keep these things in his heart. He had to hold Li Zongjiu in the palm of his hand. As long as Li Zongjiu was not dead, the world would be Li Zongjiu's. He would control the wind and clouds. They actually managed to get Senior Li Zongjiu to come. "I heard that Senior Li Zongjiu doesn't give face to anyone. We've already invited Senior Li Zongjiu many times to the 3 major medicinal herbs in the city, but he never showed up." "Is that so? What do you think is the relationship between Instructor Ling Yin and Senior Li? Haven't you heard? During the freshman recruitment, Senior Li was directly invited and completely stepped on the Chongqing Pavilion's limelight. Therefore, we have to be very careful in this freshman competition, because these people from the Chongqing Pavilion will definitely spare no effort to target us." The freshmen chattered in their seats. Li Zongjiu walked into the classroom and immediately discovered that it was a lecture hall. In the seats in the corridor and in the windows, there were a lot of people sitting. This group of people obviously came to listen to Li Zongjiu's lecture. Before going on stage, Li Zongjiu also glanced at Ling Yin beside him. It seemed like he was asking with his eyes, "Didn't you say that you were going to give a lecture to the participants?" Just by counting with his nose, there were more than a few dozen people. It was estimated that all the freshmen, and even some seniors, were present. Ling Yan's gaze looked elsewhere, as if to say that this matter had nothing to do with him. Then he directly took the lead in applauding. Everyone applaud. Welcome, welcome your Senior Li to give you a lecture. Although Senior Li did not obtain many honors, they are all heavyweight. In this elixir gathering of the 3 dynasties, your Senior Li only used 2 minutes to defeat the trump cards of the other 2 dynasties. As soon as Ling Yan's voice fell, thunderous applause was immediately heard. The whole building seemed to be about to collapse. Ahem, all of you stop. Don't play with these hypocrites. I don't know how to give a lecture. How about this? Use your mental strength to attack me. Use your strongest move. Li Zongjie said calmly. Recommended friend Guanshanda's Heavenly Eye Treasure. The writing is exquisite, and the content is wonderful. Not much to say, quick praise. Chapter 10-12. Using mental strength to attack him? Everyone was dumbfounded. There were more than 300 students present. If all of them used their mental strength at the same time, even a primitive emperor wouldn't be able to withstand it. Moreover, these new students were all talented in alchemy. Everyone's strength wasn't weak. Although they might not be as strong as Li Zongjie individually, if they worked together, even an ant could push an elephant. Without a doubt, this was an extremely dangerous move. If Li Zongjie was strong, then Li Zongjie was only a second-year student. He was only 1 year higher than them. Just 1 year higher, yet he dared to be so arrogant. Among the new students, there were a few more arrogant fellows who sneered. Senior Li, you'd better be prepared. Geniuses were always at loggerheads with each other. None of them were willing to submit to anyone. Li Zongjie, being the champion of the elixir gathering of the 3 dynasties, didn't mean that he couldn't do it. It was just because he didn't participate. It was because of this that these people were extremely arrogant. They didn't even put Li Zongjie in their eyes. They thought that this guy was just lucky. Listen to my command. After 5 breaths, attack together. There was a young man in a purple gold robe. The arrogance between his brows was extremely strong. Moreover, he had the demeanor of a natural leader. The rest of the new students also listened to his command. Nan Peixian glanced at this young man. It was said that this young man's background wasn't simple. He was the favored son of a prince who was in charge of the north. This time, he came to Monarch City to explore the city. However, this prince should have seen a lot of things. However, he couldn't imagine that this young man in front of him, Li Zongjie, was such a terrifying existence. After a silent moment, the entire space in the classroom became chaotic. One could even clearly see the ripples in the space that were like water ripples, gradually surging over wave after wave. Boom! Li Zongjie stood still. Li Zongjie allowed the 300-plus forces in front of him to bombard him. Li Zongjie's own power was condensed here. It was like a huge pool, containing all the terrifying power in front of him. More than 300 people attacked at the same time, but they were unable to shake Li Zongjie at all. Fuck! Is this kid a monster? Ling Yan stood at the side. He originally wanted to stop Li Zongjie from doing such a dangerous thing. But after thinking about it, Li Zongjie had never lost before. Since he said it, it wasn't arrogance. Instead, he was truly confident. It was a good opportunity to witness the appearance of a miracle. Sure enough, Li Zongjie was able to withstand all of the attacks. It could even be said that it was a piece of cake. Boom! All of a sudden, Li Zongjie's counterattack was delivered to each of them. With twice the power of each of them, the counterattack directly blasted these people in front of him away. Boom! 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 More than 300 people at the scene vomited blood, fell and screamed. Some of them even fainted directly. At this moment, they truly understood the terrifying strength of this senior brother Li. It was completely beyond their imagination. Just this move alone had already surpassed the cultivation realm of countless people. To be able to achieve such strength, and to be able to accurately send every force back to them. One person resisted more than 300 people. How terrifying! My class is over. Li Zongjie used his own strength to give them a good lesson. The meaning of this lesson was to tell them that they shouldn't casually fight with experts. They weren't qualified to do so. In addition, Li Zongjie was also very direct. In the return of mental energy, he directly gave them some spiritual enlightenment. If they could comprehend it and understand it, they would naturally gain something. If they couldn't comprehend it, and only treated the mental energy as an attack, an external force, then they would gain nothing. Li Zongjie directly turned and left after leaving this sentence. Ling Yan and the others were dumbfounded as they looked at the mess in front of them. You brat came to this class and injured so many people. And you actually just left a sentence behind and walked away like a feather. You brat is really brave. Hey, you brat, are you coming to the competition tomorrow? Ling Yan shouted at Li Zongjie's back. Not going. Li Zongjie directly left after leaving this sentence. How could I have so much time to accompany you to do these things every day? Originally, Ling Yan wanted to pester Li Zongjie, at least to settle this matter. However, the scene was so chaotic. So many students were injured by Li Zongjie. If this spread out, wouldn't it make people's jaws drop? However, an unexpected situation occurred. Some of the students who were injured by Li Zongjie directly meditated and began to cultivate, regardless of their injuries. It seemed that they wanted to refine this power in a timely manner. If this enlightenment disappeared, for them, they would lose a very important opportunity. Looking at them entering the state of cultivation and meditation one by one. Originally, Ling Yan didn't understand what kind of lesson Li Zongjie gave them. But now it seemed that Li Zongjie really gave them a very precious lesson. To be able to let so many people enter the state of enlightenment, what kind of teaching method is this? Ling Yan was stunned when he saw this scene. However, to be able to achieve Li Zongjie's level, at least Li Zongjie's level of mental strength was required. Otherwise, how could it be possible to achieve this level? Therefore, there was no way to replicate this method. Only Li Zongjie could succeed. When Li Zongjie walked out of Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion, there were several figures in front of him. They walked towards Li Zongjie and arrogantly blocked Li Zongjie's path. You must be Li Zongjie. The person who walked towards him had a cold face and was a head taller than Li Zongjie. He stared arrogantly at Li Zongjie in front of him. You want to die? Li Zongjie looked at the four people in front of him. He really didn't know what these youngsters were thinking. They actually dared to block Li Zongjie's path. This was too stupid of an action. In the Sacred Flame Imperial City, no one dared to block Li Zongjie's path for a long time. We are from Longevity Academy. Under the orders of eldest senior brother, we invite you to be present tomorrow. After saying that, he used his nose to glare at Li Zongjie and whispered in Li Zongjie's ear. If you don't show up at that time, you will bear the consequences. Chapter 10:13. Bear the consequences yourself. Naturally, the meaning of the threat was quite clear. Li Zongjie couldn't help but laugh. How many of you are here? Li Zongjie looked at the man in front of him. The man was also stunned, not understanding what Li Zongjie meant. Bang! Before the man could react, Li Zongjie had already kicked him. Then he kicked the man who had just spoken out. Along the street, he flew out for 100 meters. Finally, he fell to the ground with a plop. His buttocks landed directly on the ground. Li Zongjie's kick also caused a sharp pain in his chest. Obviously, this kick just now had broken several of his bones. Cough cough. After that man fell to the ground, he never got up again. The three people beside him were furious when they saw that Li Zongjie had dared to attack them. These people were specially recruited. Chongqing Pavilion was a sect that specialized in alchemy. However, they also paid great attention to the cultivation of their origin power, because they didn't need to seek protection from the outside world. If they only focused on the development of their alchemy cultivation, they would only become tools for others in the future. They would end up in a very tragic state. The pavilion master of Chongqing Pavilion had obviously realized this. Therefore, Chongqing Pavilion was also divided into the Alchemy Pavilion and the Martial Pavilion. These people were all disciples of the Martial Pavilion. Those who were able to enter the Longevity Pavilion were all extremely talented people. There were very few disciples in the Martial Pavilion to begin with. Therefore, the requirements for talent were even higher. The disciples of Chongqing Pavilion and the Martial Pavilion were even stronger than the core disciples of some of the first-rate sections. That was indeed the case. You have a death wish. Since Li Zongjie had attacked, there was no need for them to hold back. It was not Chongqing Pavilion's style to always be patient. If something happened, the higher-ups would naturally take care of it. Immediately, a fierce look flashed across the faces of the three people. In the next second, there were 3 consecutive muffled sounds. Bang, bang, bang. Another 3 people were sent flying. They fell to the ground. It landed on the body of the person who had been sent flying by the kick. The 3 of them fell to the ground one after another like a human pyramid. The 4 of them stacked on top of each other on the street immediately attracted the attention of countless onlookers. Coincidentally, the 4 of them couldn't get up for a long time. The strength of Li Zongjie's kick was quite accurate. It would take at least 10 minutes for them to recover, and during this time, they would not be able to move at all. He's really courting death. Li Zongjie scanned with his spiritual power. How dare these people from the Longevity Pavilion behave so atrociously in front of Li Zongjie? He quickly found a figure in the city. His figure flashed, and he immediately appeared in front of an inn in the city. A man was seated at a table near the street, drinking tea. Clearly, he had witnessed the scene of the cultivators from the Longevity Pavilion getting kicked away. Obviously, he was extremely shocked by this scene. However, when Li Zongjie appeared in front of him, he was even more surprised. "Brother, is there something you need?" The man was obviously surprised, but he forced himself to remain calm. "I'm fine, but you're not." After Li Zongjie finished speaking, he kicked the man. The man had no way of dodging at all. His physical fitness was much worse than the 4 people from before. After the kick, he flew over the fence on the 2nd floor and landed on the street. Pfft! The person who was kicked onto the street spat out a mouthful of blood. Clearly, he did not dare to believe that Li Zongjie would know about the people he had arranged. Next time, find out whose territory this is. Li Zongjie came in front of the man. Crippling these people was a piece of cake for Li Zongjie. However, Li Zongjie's temper had improved. If it was before, even if these people did not die, they would lose some parts. A mere Longevity Pavilion dared to behave so atrociously in front of Li Zongjie. They must be tired of living. Since these people from the Longevity Pavilion were so eager to die, Li Zongjie would definitely make a trip to the Longevity Pavilion as a guest when he had the time. The news of the disciples of the Longevity Pavilion being beaten up on the street quickly spread. The news spread like wildfire, and some people saw the person who beat them up. It was a heroic-looking young man, which immediately caused people to be shocked. After some investigation, it turned out that it was Li Zongjie from the White Deer Manor. It was no wonder. They were actually looking for trouble with Li Zongjie. How could they not be at a disadvantage? Sigh. The Longevity Medicine Manor is probably trying to build up their reputation. That's why they want to make a move on Li Zongjie. If they can directly trip Li Zongjie up, the reputation of the Longevity Medicine Manor will naturally rise. However, they seem to have found the wrong person. I'm afraid that they are not qualified to go against Li Zongjie with their strength. It's a good thing that Li Zongjie's temper has improved recently. In the past, at least 100 lives in Royal City were related to Li Zongjie. Some of the people who had been in Royal City for a longer time had naturally heard of Li Zongjie's reputation. They even knew how shocking the things that Li Zongjie had done were. Now their tempers were slightly more restrained. Naturally, this made everyone even more surprised. Although they had been holding it in all day and had not exploded, it would be too late for regrets if they suddenly exploded one day. Jin Province. Gu family. The Gu family sat on the resources of the entire Jin Province. A long time ago, as an earth-shattering and powerful family, one could imagine how majestic they were back then. Later on, when the Shengyan dynasty's royal family rose to power, they divided the world and made it their own territory. If anyone was dissatisfied, they could directly start a war. In the end, they were able to obtain such a place in the Gu family. This was already a great honor for the Gu family. Otherwise, however, this also proved that the Gu family was strong and powerful. It would not be so easy to destroy them. The cohesion of the entire Gu family in Jin Province naturally surpassed that of the Xingyin dynasty. Sometimes having a large territory was not necessarily a good thing. If something were to happen, one might not be able to take care of it. The Gu family occupied Jin Province's Skygold City. Within Skygold City, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly descended between the heavens and the earth. Some of the elders in the Gu family, who were waiting for orders, also stood up in shock at this moment. Their faces were filled with surprise. This is the family head. The family head has finally broken through the sovereign realm, looking down on the universe. This surging aura was so vast that it shook the mountains and the seas. The Yuan Qi within Jin Province also surged towards the Gu family, like 3 flowers at one's head at this moment. Some of the people who were in charge of secretly watching the Gu family were stunned when they saw this scene. Chapter 10:14. White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao had also received the news. In fact, after Li Zongjiu and the Gu family had a grudge, Xiao Zhao had been paying attention to the Gu family in the Jin region. After all, the Gu family in the Jin region was extremely powerful. It was not something that ordinary forces could compare to. After such a thing happened, they actually remained indifferent. This meant that the Gu family had been preparing for something. Now he finally knew. These people were actually waiting for their family head to break through to the sovereign realm. The entire Jin region, or even the entire Xingyin dynasty, would be extremely shocked. He did not know what the Xingyin dynasty's imperial family would do in the face of a powerful supreme being expert. In short, regardless of what the Holy Flame imperial family or other forces would do, he had to ensure that the Gu family would not find trouble with the White Deer Manor. After thinking about it, Xiao Zhao decided to report this news to Li Zongjiu. Before a sovereign realm expert, any form of deterrence was useless. The sovereign realm expert only needed a light palm strike to destroy the entire White Deer Manor. Contrary to Xiao Zhao's expectations, after Li Zongjiu received the news, he only nodded and said that he understood. After that, he did not do anything else. Although Xiao Zhao was burning with anxiety, he did not continue to ask because of his respect and trust for Li Zongjiu. However, Xiao Zhao was also trying his best to recruit some experts. He had to ensure the safety of the White Deer Manor. A sovereign realm expert had appeared in the Jin region's Gu family. This news was not concealed at all. In just a day the whole world knew about it. The Heavenly Pill Pavilion also knew that Li Zongjiu and the Gu family had an indelible hatred. However, the Gu family's strength made it difficult for them. One was a genius alchemist. If they lost such a genius, they did not know when they would be able to find another one. However, the other was a sovereign realm expert. What kind of concept was this? Even the royal family of the Xingyin dynasty did not dare to overlook it. They had to pay full attention to it. The attitude of the Skyflame dynasty's royal family was also unclear. However, 3 days later, they rewarded the Gu family's patriarch. The head of the Gu clan was appointed as the governor of the 2 mountains. The so-called governor of the 2 mountains referred to the terrain between the 2 heavenly moat mountain ranges, which would be under the jurisdiction of the Gu clan. These 2 mountains were actually the Gu clan's territory. It was just that he didn't say it out loud before. Now that he said it out loud, it was equivalent to tacitly agreeing to the Gu family's position as the overlord of Jin state. He didn't admit it in the past, but now he directly admitted it. He also wanted the Gu family head to report to the imperial court in a few days. When Qi Yanran heard the news, she was also very anxious. The head of the Gu clan has been conferred the title of governor of the 2 mountains. Within half a month at most, he will definitely come to Royal City to meet the emperor. Zongjiu, the head of the Gu clan, will definitely come to settle the score from before. Qi Yanran said to Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had also just come out of seclusion recently. The freshman competition had already entered a critical stage. In short, the situation of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor wasn't very good. The Longevity Medicine Manor and the Azure Ocean Academy were like brave armies, singing loudly and breaking through one after another. They were coming with great momentum. The Longevity Herb Manor was one thing. However, the Azure Sea Academy actually possessed such strength. Due to that, the onlookers were taken aback. They had originally assumed that the Azure Sea Academy was just a cannon fodder. At that very moment, however, the results that the Azure Sea Academy had achieved were extremely impressive. Qi Yinran was originally in charge of the Four Seas Academy, but after hearing the news, the first thing that came to her mind was Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu had killed so many people from the Gu clan, so he would definitely come for revenge. He might even kill Li Zhongjiu to establish his dominance. This kind of thing couldn't be more normal. Don't worry, he's just a supreme being who has just broken through. He won't be able to cause much trouble in front of me. But your words have reminded me. Li Zhongjiu stood up and brushed off the dust on his body, waiting for the Gu clan to come knocking on his door? That wasn't Li Zhongjiu's style. Since everyone said that he was a threat, Li Zhongjiu naturally couldn't let him continue living. Xiao Zhao, can the Eagle battleship enter the battle now? Li Zhongjiu called for Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao was waiting for orders not far away. Young master, other than the experimental model, there's a real prototype, the Eagle battleship number 1. It can enter the battle at any time. Xiao Zhao replied. Get the pilot ready to make a trip to Jinzhou, Li Zhongjiu said. The moment he said that, the two girls were shocked. Zhongjiu? When Qi Yinran heard that, a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. However, Qi Yinran understood Li Zhongjiu's character. After hesitating for a moment, she stepped forward and held Li Zhongjiu's hand. No matter what, I'll accompany you. Hearing Qi Yinran's words, Li Zhongjiu pinched her cheeks. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to any of you, Li Zhongjiu said gently. Go. Also call all the guest elders of our White Deer Manor, Li Zhongjiu said. In recent days, he had also recruited a lot of experts. At this moment, they were all gathered in White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that Li Zhongjiu would choose to take the initiative to attack. Going to the Gu clan in Jinzhou, it was truly shocking. It was completely unexpected. Just like how no one dared to believe that Li Zhongjiu could kill his way into Qingyuan Manor alone and overturn the entire manor, causing a huge commotion. How can you kill me when it's all about fighting and killing? Kuan Arashi's figure walked in from outside. When he heard the news, Kuan Arashi's first reaction was that the Gu clan was in trouble. However, the other party was a supreme being expert, and he didn't know if Li Zhongjiu could handle it. However, with Li Zhongjiu's temper, he would definitely take the initiative to deal with the Gu clan. What have you been doing all this time? Don't talk about it. Teacher Sun Yu has been researching something recently. I haven't seen the sun for a long time. When Kuan Arashir said this, he looked depressed. It was obvious that Sun Yu had high hopes for Kuan Arashir. He would bring Kuan Arashir into everything, which gave Kuan Arashir a headache. After a few days of continuous research, they also stayed in the laboratory and did very boring research. In terms of elixir research, Li Zhongjiu obviously couldn't directly take out the results of the future. If he did that, these people wouldn't be able to handle the amount of information. Secondly, if their foundation wasn't solid enough, everything in the future would be superficial. This was something that had to be remembered clearly. If they encountered a slight problem, they wouldn't be able to solve it. Alright, follow me to Jinzhou. Chapter 10:15. Something big was happening in the White Deer Manor. All the experts stationed in various places were summoned. Obviously, there was going to be a tough battle. Wan Yulan was among them. The Black Canal Basilica had not done anything recently, which was out of Wan Yulan's expectation. Perhaps these people had confidence in the life and death servant, which was why they were so lax. However, Wan Yulan was also thinking of ways to cut off the information from here. Just the spies of the Heike dynasty had been purged during this period. Except for Wan Yulan, there were also two primitive emperor experts who were hired as guests of the White Deer Manor. These two were brothers, known as the Liangshan brothers. It was said that these two were inseparable. If they joined forces, their combat power would be extremely terrifying. Although they were only second-grade primitive emperors, their combined strength would be close to that of a fourth-grade primitive emperor. However, there seemed to be some problems with the cultivation techniques that these two cultivated. Therefore, they came to Li Zhongjiu's White Deer Manor to ask for medicine. Li Zongjio knew the symptoms of these two at a glance. He casually refined an elixir, and their injuries were healed. Of course, he did not eradicate them directly. However, this also made the Liangshan brothers understand that Li Zongjio had the ability to heal them. On the spot, the Liangshan brothers slapped their thighs and joined the White Deer Manor as guests. In addition, there were some Yuan King experts. These Yuan King experts were not qualified to guard the White Deer Manor. Therefore, they were sent to guard the shops below. There would often be some small disturbances. Therefore, this was a very normal thing. Now that Li Zongjio had taken action, he had gathered all these people. The number of Yuan King experts had reached 20. With such a lineup, ordinary first-rate sects would not dare to provoke them. No one could have imagined that the White Deer Manor would develop to such a scale in such a short period of time, and that their forces would grow to such an extent. Nangong Wuji, you stay in the manor. I'm afraid that someone will come and cause trouble. Li Zongjio said. Everyone else board the warship. Even Hong Shirsan was captured by Li Zongjio as a strong man. However, Xiao Zhao was extremely worried. Perhaps if these people went, they would be completely wiped out. Perhaps the young master would really not be able to return after leaving. Tui, how could he think like that? Young master, you must be careful. The size of the Eagle battleship was enough to carry so many people. When the warship rose into the sky, two figures from the White Deer Manor swiftly followed behind it. He flew towards the distant sky. The actions of the White Deer Manor were naturally noticed by the other factions in the city. With such a big movement, it was definitely not an escape. In fact, there was no place to escape. With their strength, it was extremely easy for them to catch you. That kid really set off. When Chu Tairan heard this news, his face was also filled with nervousness and disbelief. However, Li Zongjio's action of striking a stone with an egg was really stupid. If Li Zongjio really had the ability to deal with a sovereign realm expert, then he would be able to do it. Then why would he stay here? No, I have to go and see Emperor Xingyan. Speaking of this, Chu Tairan hurriedly prepared. However, when Chu Tairan walked into the palace, he was informed that the great emperor was in seclusion. It was obvious that he was trying to decline. Now, the only person in the world who could save Li Zongjio was the Emperor Xingyan. If the Emperor Xingyan was unwilling to help, Li Zongjio could only die. Emperor Li Zongjio must not die. In Chu Tairan's eyes, he could already foresee that Li Zongjio's achievements in the future would definitely surpass that of a Supreme Being expert. Although the prestige of a Supreme Being expert was unparalleled in the world, this matter was not so simple. The changes that Li Zongjio's talent could bring to the alchemy world were immeasurable. However, Emperor Xingyan seemed to be indifferent. Even for a long time, Emperor Xingyan had solved things in this way. He let them solve everything by themselves. The extent to which this matter could develop was what Emperor Xingyan liked. Otherwise, if he interfered with any side and caused some irreversible losses, it would be extremely inappropriate for Emperor Xingyan. Similarly, the Gu family of the Jin province also received the news that Li Zongjio was moving out in full force. In the eyes of the Gu family, such a suicidal action was simply idiotic. The third elder of the Gu family, Gu Tianxing. Gu Tianxing gathered a group of experts from the Gu family, and at the same time, he also gathered the experts from the other major families in Skygold City. If you discover the actions of the people from the White Deer Manor, you know what to do. Gu Tianxing said indifferently. At this moment, there were more than 10 primitive emperors sitting in this meeting. The number of experts from the forces behind them would be even greater. No one dared to believe that when this power was gathered together, it actually possessed such a powerful might. Rest assured, Elder. I will send people to intercept them at Walnut Ridge tonight. How dare a mere ant act rashly in front of a saint? To them, an external enemy like Li Zongjio should be eliminated. That night, a large group of experts had already set up an ambush on Walnut Ridge. This was the only way to Skygold City. Not only that, they had also specially mobilized 2 warships that were comparable to the Qilin warships to seal off the entire sky. Many experts were resting on the deck. Do you think that Li Zongjio is a fool? What is he thinking? Why is he attacking the Gu family? No, 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 I think that Li Zongjio is very smart. Oh, what do you mean? Think about it. If Li Zongjio had stayed here obediently, he could only have died a sullen death. In the end, he would have nothing left. However, if he came here directly, although he would definitely die, at his age, he would have embarrassed the powerful Gu family. Wouldn't he leave behind a good story for the future generations? At the very least, he would have preserved his reputation. And Primitive Emperor said as he sipped on his wine, analyzing the situation. Currently, there were 7 primitive emperors, and more than 50 primitive kings on Walnut Ridge. They were all waiting for Li Zongjio's arrival. In their opinion, the forces gathered by Li Zongjio were like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Attention, there's movement ahead. Suddenly, someone sounded the alarm. At the same time, a light incendiary bomb shot into the sky, illuminating the scene ahead. Whoosh! When this light appeared, 2 beams of light instantly blasted their warship. Boom! Billowing smoke suddenly rose into the sky. The warship fell directly from the sky. As the flames flickered, the 7 primitive emperors from Skygold City unleashed their auras and rushed towards the strange-looking warship. The outside world did not know how many people Li Zongjio had brought with him. Chapter 10:16. The 7 primitive emperors joined forces and unleashed a terrifying aura. At the same time, they immediately noticed that there seemed to be some movement in front of them. They saw a strange-looking warship appearing in front of them. It was this thing that had shot down their warship. Shoot it down. At this moment, a strong mental strength spread out. 3 of them were immediately trapped by this mental strength. They were stunned on the spot, unable to move. Then 3 blazing rays of light pierced through the 3 of them. Boom! Immediately, the 3 of them were burned to ashes. They were killed by the other party, before they could even react. What? The appearance of such a situation could be said to be unprecedented. Everyone could not believe it. 3 primitive emperors were killed by the other party in an instant. Did they think this was an opera? Swoosh! From the warship, a white light suddenly swept down and immediately wrapped around one of them. Immediately, the figure struggled for a while. However, the white light on his body seemed to be extremely powerful. He could not break free at all. The other 2 wanted to help when they saw the situation, but they were attracted by the 2 strong winds behind them. The Blackwind Blood Shadow Condor was like a killer in the dark night. It appeared in a hurry and escaped 1,000 meters away. Of course, its talons were also grabbing a figure. The cannons on the Eagle-type warship accurately blasted the figure grabbed by the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condor into pieces. Boom! Boom! 2 of them died instantly. The only person who wasn't injured and didn't target Li Zongjio was the person who had said that Li Zongjio was smart, but was actually mocking him. When he saw the scene before him. When he saw this, he panicked and rushed towards the direction of Skygold City, as if he had lost his soul. However, the 2 Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors rushed towards this expert, trying to outdo each other. Boom! The sound of an explosion was heard. The terrifying commotion was rather tragic. One could even see the primitive emperor expert being tossed around like a toy by the 2 meta beasts in the air. Limbs flew. Blood splattered. Kill. Li Zongjio waved his hand, and the expert standing on the warship jumped and rushed towards the people below. Other than the primitive emperors, there were also dozens of primitive monarchs lying in ambush below. The power displayed by these primitive monarchs should not be underestimated. They could also be of use at critical moments. However, the 7 Yuan monarchs had been dealt with in an instant. Now there was no lack of Yuan monarchs among the enemies that were rushing over. Yuan monarchs like them simply weren't enough. After barely holding on for a moment, they began to flee frantically. The men that Li Zongjio brought with him did not show any mercy. They killed those that they could, and left those that they could not to the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condor. Li Zongjio had taken care of all the people who had shown up tonight. The person who had been swept up into the sky by Qi Yinran's desolate heaven essence. Li Zongjio also took the latter's life with his hammer. It took less than 10 minutes to deal with the enemies that were lying in ambush at Walnut Ridge. Although it sounded fast, there was still some resistance in the process of carrying it out. I'd like to see how many people dare to stop me, Li Zongjie said coldly. The men under him were also quite excited after fighting for a while. Moments later, the warship arrived in front of Skygold City. However, Li Zongjie did not expose the Eagle warship. He let the Eagle warship hover 10,000 meters above the ground. It hid in the clouds, waiting for the call at any time. 2 Blackwind Blood Shadow Condors were also hovering in the sky, protecting the warship. After all, Li Yun was also in the warship. Hence, the warship could not be damaged. If the warship was destroyed, the loss would be considerable. Li Zongjie was here to cause trouble for the Gu family, not to massacre the city. Naturally, he would not attack the city. The guards of Skygold City were soldiers of the imperial court. Although most of the people in power had been bribed, they did not dare to question Li Zongjie and his men when they saw him walking over. Even if they had been ordered to do so, at this moment, there would not be any obstruction, and they would let him pass. Lordly, I am the guard of Skygold City Meng Hao. To be honest, the city is now filled with murderous intent. Lord, please do not enter the city rashly. A general in armor came up to Li Zongjie and said. After all, Li Zongjie was an honorary elder of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. He was also an official of the imperial court. If he could help him at this time, it would be considered as fulfilling his duty. At the same time, he might be able to make a fortune. If that was the case, he would have made a fortune. In any case, Li Zongjie wouldn't be able to live for long. In his opinion, Li Zongjie would die sooner or later. It was more or less the same. You accepted the Gu family's money, and now you want to get some benefits from me. You have done a good job of being smooth and slick. Li Zongjie glanced at Meng Hao indifferently. With just one glance, Meng Hao felt as if he had been plunged into an ice cellar. What kind of person could have such a terrifying look in their eyes? Meng Hao's heart was completely shaken. He did not dare to say anything more. When I leave the city, you can kill yourself. Otherwise, I will bury your whole family with you. Li Zongjie patted Meng Hao's shoulder. He directly led his men and swept past Meng Hao. Meng Hao's body froze on the spot. He did not expect Li Zongjie, who was only a teenager, to have such sharp eyes. This did not conform to the latter's settings at all. How is this possible? As he spoke, his heart began to pound with nervousness. Your Excellency, Li Zongjie is too presumptuous. One of Meng Hao's deputies stepped forward. It seemed that he could not stand Li Zongjie's arrogance, but he did not dare to say anything in front of Li Zongjie. But what he said, Your Excellency, what do you think? When Li Zongjie left, he would kill himself. You want me to die? It's hard to say if he can even survive the night. Meng Hao laughed coldly. He had originally wanted to pretend to warn Li Zongjie out of goodwill, and then take the opportunity to gain some benefits. However, he did not expect Li Zongjie to directly expose him. This made him feel extremely embarrassed. You actually want me to kill myself? Do you think you are the emperor? In any case, I am the guardian general of Skygold City. If I kill myself because of a single sentence from you, how embarrassing would that be? As he thought about this, Meng Hao felt as if he had been possessed. Every moment, he thought about the way Li Zongjie looked at him. At the same time, he was also worried. If Li Zongjie really left alive, wouldn't he really be in trouble? Chapter 1017. It was already late, so Li Zongjie didn't charge straight into the Gu family. That way, if word got out, wouldn't he be like a bandit? That would be a huge blow to his reputation. Thus, Li Zongjie directly brought his men and found a top-notch restaurant opposite the Gu family's courtyard. Everyone stayed there. This place was the property of the Gu family. Although it wasn't managed by the Gu family, the big boss behind it was the Gu family. Hence, it was considered a high-class restaurant in the core district. Manager, please arrange for all of us to stay here. If we can't accommodate all of us, please chase the other guests out. You can leave by yourself. Li Zongjie walked in and said nonchalantly. Before the manager could reply, he saw a group of fiendish people walk in with smirks on their faces, as if they were ready to explode at any moment. The manager, who had been scheming, felt his heart skip a beat when he saw so many people walk in. These people didn't seem easy to deal with. so he wanted to remind these arrogant people of where they were. However, one of his subordinates also came forward and whispered a few words in the manager's ear. The manager's expression changed immediately, and he immediately served them with good wine and meat. Hee, don't worry, there are plenty of rooms tonight. It won't be a problem for each of you to have a room. As a high-class restaurant in the core district, how could it be small? Hence, there were more than 100 rooms. Clear out the best room for our young master. A Yuan monarch elite working under Taifai said. This person had been at the forefront when dealing with Zhang Feng. He was also the most courageous and unafraid of death. At the same time, he was also very observant and knew what a young master like Li Zongjie wanted. Now, not only had he killed his way into the Sky Gold City, but he had also stayed in the inn opposite the Gu family. There was only one word to describe it: arrogance. This person was called Mao Jiang, and he was a ruthless person. Upon hearing Mao Jiang's words and seeing the unfriendly looks in everyone's eyes, the manager looked troubled. Sir, to tell you the truth, the top floor of our Golden Heaven Pavilion has been reserved by a young master of the Gu family for an extended period of time. We truly do not possess that authority, the shopkeeper said with a long face. Mao Jiang was excited when he heard that. What a guy! Who's so bold that he dares to snatch a room from our young master? Call him down. Immediately, the slap landed on the people brought by Li Zongjie. The dozen or so tables in the main hall of the inn were all filled. Li Zongjie sat in a private room. Qi Yanran, Wan Yulan, and Kuan Erishur sat with Li Zongjie. During the battle just now, Kuan Erishur had also challenged a few people. Of course, in the end, Kuan Erishur did not kill them. It was not that he did not want to kill them, but that they ran too fast. If Kuan Erishur rashly chased after them, the situation would not be certain. Where did this dog come from? Don't you know whose territory this is? Barking and shouting here. Just as Mao Jiang was taking the lead to cause trouble, a handsome man came down from upstairs with a delicate woman in his arms. There were two burly guards in front of him leading the way. As a direct descendant of the Gu family, Gu Zhiyuan was ranked 13th among the direct descendant disciples. He was also known as the 13th young master. The Gu family was a large family with countless disciples. In order to make it easier to calculate, they directly used strength to determine seniority. The stronger one was, the higher one's ranking would be. As long as one was not over 30 years old, they would be ranked according to this method. The rooms on the top floor of the Sky Gold Pavilion were all reserved by the 13th young master, Gu Zhiyuan. In a place like the Sky Gold City, there was naturally no need for bodyguards. However, with his status, he would not have any underlings following him when he went out. How could this be? When Mao Jiang heard Gu Zhiyuan's words, a sinister smile appeared on his face. It was normal to be scolded in the underworld. However, the prerequisite was that one had sufficient strength. If one did not have enough strength, the consequences would be very tragic. Oh, this girl is not bad. Brother Mao, shall we go and get to know her? Another person who had a good relationship with Mao Jiang also stood up. All right, let this blind thing see who's the real dog. There were more than 20 Yuan monarchs and 5 or 6 Yuan emperors sitting on his side. How could he be afraid? Even if he failed, there would definitely be others who would replace him. This brat would definitely be dead. You're courting death. Cripple the two of them. Throw them to the backyard to feed the dogs. With Gu Zhiyuan's command, the two burly men in front of him charged towards Mao Jiang and the other person. The four of them collided with each other and were forced to retreat. They were actually Yuan monarchs. The Gu family was indeed an ancient family. Even the 13th young master's bodyguards were Yuan monarchs. However, Mao Jiang and the other person did not cower. Instead, they revealed excited expressions. They had not had enough fun killing at Walnut Ridge just now. Again, the four of them fought fiercely. Who knew how many tables, chairs, and benches were smashed? The ground shook and many diners fled one after another. In the end, Mao Jiang and the other person's skills were a level higher, and they directly defeated the other two. Each of them stepped on the ground one by one. Brat, how many people do you have? Just call them over. Mao Jiang's clothes were torn to shreds. The strong muscles on his chest were exposed. At the same time, Mao Jiang looked at Gu Zhiyuan provocatively and used his gaze to tease the girl beside Gu Zhiyuan. Gu Zhiyuan sneered when he saw this. Immediately, Gu Zhiyuan's figure flashed like a ray of light and instantly appeared in front of Mao Jiang. He stretched out his hand, and a terrifying amount of yuan qi condensed between his palms. Mao Jiang and the other person's eyes flashed with surprise. In the next moment, they collided with Gu Zhiyuan's palms and were sent flying. Bang! Bang! Gu Zhiyuan's strength had actually reached the level of a 7th-grade yuan monarch. If Qi Yanran had not consumed the Sky Dragon elixir, she definitely would not have been able to compete with Gu Zhiyuan in terms of cultivation. Of course, the elixirs and resources that Gu Zhiyuan could consume were not on the same level as Qi Yanran. It was normal for the latter to have such strength. Furthermore, with the desolate heaven essence in hand, even if Qi Yanran was only a 1st-grade yuan monarch, she would still be able to beat the person in front of her. 2 pieces of trash dare to be insolent in front of me? Trash, how many people do you have? Come at me together. Gu Zhiyuan raised his eyebrows slightly and said arrogantly. However, he guessed that these 2 were just wanderers who didn't know the difference between life and death. After he finished speaking, Gu Zuyan turned around and extended his hand, preparing to receive the latter. In the end, he saw that his woman had a frightened expression in her eyes. Furthermore, she was pointing behind him. When Gu Zhiyuan turned around with a frown on his face, he saw that the 20 to 30 people who were eating and drinking in the inn had all stood up. Some of them had toothpicks in their mouths, while others had pig heads in their hands. Their gazes were extremely unfriendly. Sorry, we still have so many people. Kuan Erisher laughed loudly. Chapter 10:18. Gu Zhiyuan was taken aback when he saw such a huge lineup. What sort of situation was this? However, the people before him dared to act arrogantly before him. Gu Zhiyuan? Idiot, which clan are you from? Don't tell me you don't know whose territory this is. Gu Zhiyuan bellowed at these people, wanting to suppress them with his aura. However, it was clear that Gu Zhiyuan's aura was unable to suppress the people before him. Everyone had a mocking attitude. From the looks of it, the latter was flustered and exasperated. However, Gu Zhiyuan was no fool. The people before him had clearly inquired about this place. It was clear that they had come to look for trouble. Immediately, Gu Zhiyuan leapt up and rushed up the stairs. He planned to flee in another direction. However, by the time that Gu Zhiyuan moved, someone had already acted. Gu Zhiyuan was directly captured. Get down! Bang! The ones who attacked were the Liangshan brothers. Under the beckoning of these 2 brothers, Gu Zhiyuan naturally did not have the strength to fight back, and was easily thrown to the ground. The rest of the people also swarmed up and violently beat up the Gu clan's young master. Finally, they dragged him to Li Zongjiu. At this moment, Gu Zhiyuan's face was covered in wounds and blood. Li Zongjiu looked at Gu Zhiyuan's female companion and casually waved his hand, indicating for her to leave. However, the woman seemed to have been scared silly by this scene. She did not dare to believe that someone would dare to attack Gu Zhiyuan. Right across from the Gu clan, was this person tired of living? There were truly all kinds of people in this world. Why aren't you leaving yet? One of them shouted at the woman. Only then did the woman wake up from her daze. She quickly lifted her little skirt and ran away. After the woman left, only then did Li Zongjiu prepare to deal with Gu Zhiyuan. Your mouth is very dirty and needs to be cleaned. Since your parents didn't teach you well, I must properly teach you in your father's place. A person must know manners. Knock out all his teeth. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Who are you? What do you want? Gu Ziyuan didn't know Li Zongjiu at all. This Li Zongjiu was clearly targeting him. This made Gu Ziyuan very unhappy. What the hell is going on with you? Why are you targeting me? In Skygold City, Gu Zhiyuan would never provoke others, unless it was done by someone from the Gu clan. Otherwise, how could anyone attack a member of the Gu clan in Skygold City? That person must be tired of living. You didn't offend me. You're just unlucky. Li Zongjiu casually waved his hand, and several people dragged Gu Zhiyuan away. They pulled out his teeth on the spot. Hearing Gu Zhiyuan squealing like a pig being slaughtered, some people enjoyed it. Normally, these young masters of aristocratic families would bully others. Although Gu Zuyuan hadn't bullied them, his arrogant and hedonistic temperament naturally needed to be taught a lesson. News of Li Zongjiu's arrival in the city. The entire Gu clan was shaken. The Gu clan's third elder immediately appeared to preside over the situation. In front of Gu Tianxing was a long table that was close to 20 meters long. On both sides of the table sat people in different attire. Some of the people in the table had already changed their seats. Third elder, our patriarch has never returned. When we investigated the scene, we only found our patriarch's corpse. You must seek justice for our patriarch. Our great elder's corpse is also nowhere to be found. Li Zongjiu and his group are simply unreasonable bandits. They kill people like flies and deserve to die. Third elder, we just received news that Li Zongjiu and his group are currently staying in the Sky Gold Tower. 13th young master Gu Zhuyuan has been captured by them. A deacon of the Gu clan came to report. Gu Tianxing could still sit still after hearing the previous news. However, after hearing this news, he could no longer sit still. What? The reason why Gu Zhuyuan was able to stay in the Sky Gold Tower was naturally because his identity wasn't simple. Gu Tianxing was his grandfather. With the Gu clan's third elder's grandfather as his backer, as long as he didn't go overboard, no one would do anything to him. As long as Gu Zhuyuan knew his limits, he wouldn't have to worry about food or clothing. In addition, Gu Zhuyuan's talent wasn't bad, and he was quite hardworking. He was just a bit lustful. However, Gu Tianxing didn't care about that. Which man wasn't lustful? You're courting death. Gu Tianxing was obviously furious. He had actually captured his grandson. Li Zongjiu was so vicious and merciless. He didn't know what he would do to Gu Zhuyuan, but he knew that it wouldn't be anything good. He could imagine it just by thinking about it. Immediately summon the torture chamber's ancient soldiers. Gu Tianxing immediately ordered. The torture chamber's ancient soldiers were the Gu clan's external fighting force. Once the ancient soldiers appeared, it meant that the Gu clan's attitude had arrived. If you still stubbornly resisted, only death would await you. Obviously, Gu Tianxing couldn't tolerate this. The other party had arranged a large number of people in the Golden Sky Pavilion. This was clearly provoking the Gu clan. If he could tolerate this, then Gu Tianxing didn't need to continue being the third elder. Elder, please wait. We don't know the strength of the other party's people. If we attack rashly, we might suffer losses. One of the elders hurriedly tried to persuade him. The great elder and second elder were assisting the family head to stabilize his realm. At the same time, they also gathered in front of the family head and enjoyed some benefits in front of this newly advanced supreme being. Therefore, most of the responsibility was given to the third elder. Most of the authority was in the third elder's hands. Originally, the great elder and second elder, and even the family head himself, would come out of seclusion soon. However, when they heard that Gu Zhuyuan was in the hands of the other party, they couldn't tolerate it. They had to completely kill Li Zongjiu. Shut up. Do you think the Gu clan's strength can't cripple a mere country bumpkin? Li Zongjiu's background had naturally been thoroughly investigated by the Gu clan. In their opinion, a place like Wuxia City was simply a wasteland. How could anyone live in such a place where the vitality was thin and the resources were scarce? If one were to draw a circle in Jin province, the resources under the land would be many times richer than Wuxia City. Therefore, they naturally looked down on Li Zongjiu. At this moment, it was obvious that Li Zongjiu had climbed up and stepped on their heads. Who would be able to tolerate this? Immediately, the Gu soldiers of the torture chamber gathered in the square. There were a total of 76 Gu soldiers. Each of them was fierce and ferocious. It wouldn't be a problem for them to kill gods and Buddhas. Chapter 10:19. When the ancient soldiers gathered, they were filled with killing intent. Gu Tianxing also ordered the vassal families to surround the Golden Sky Pavilion. The general of Golden Sky City, Meng Hao, was also paying attention to Li Zongjiu's situation. After being threatened by Li Zongjiu, Meng Hao felt extremely uneasy. Meng Hao knew that if Li Zongjiu was still alive, he would definitely not be at ease. He had to see Li Zongjie die in front of him with his own eyes. Therefore, at this moment, he was constantly asking his subordinates to gather information. How is it? What's the situation now? Meng Hao couldn't help but ask. One of his subordinates had just returned and was impatient even before he could stand firm. The latest news is that Li Zongjie has taken over the Golden Sky Pavilion and captured the Gu family's 13th prince. Now, the Gu family has gathered the ancient soldiers and surrounded the Golden Sky Pavilion. The messenger said, Good. That brat is courting death. The 13th prince is Gu Tianxing's grandson. If anything happens to him, that brat will definitely not be able to live. When he thought about how Li Zongjie would be dismembered by the Gu family's ancient soldiers, he felt incomparably delighted. He had to die. He had to die. Quick, continue to scout. If there's any situation, quickly report back. Meng Hao drank a mouthful of tea to calm himself down. At least for now, it seemed that Li Zongjie wouldn't have an easy time. Even the ancient soldiers had been mobilized. This was already a clear indication of the Gu family's attitude. Therefore, it was impossible to let this matter pass so easily. Golden Sky Pavilion. Some of the nearby shops had already closed their doors. However, there were some people who were interested and sent people to keep an eye on the Golden Heaven Pavilion. Among them were the people from the Thousand Taste Grass Hall. The people from the Thousand Taste Grass Hall didn't go to sell their own herbs. Instead, they were here to watch the battle in the Golden Sky Pavilion. Currently, everyone in the city knew that Li Zongjie from the Sacred Flame Imperial City's White Deer Manor had come. Was he coming to the Gu family to die? Or was he here to announce his strength and status? To demonstrate his power? The number one clan in the Jin province, the Gu clan, was actually provoked by a youth who was not even 20 years old. This scene was too exciting, and no one wanted to give up. He stared at them with wide eyes. This Li Zongjie in just 1 year has already reached such a powerful level. In the Thousand Flavors Grass Hall, a lady was elegantly brewing tea behind a curtain. When she heard the news, she glanced sideways. When she lifted the curtain, a pair of jet-black bright eyes were extremely dazzling. The trouble this guy is causing is getting bigger and bigger. I heard he's with the eldest daughter of the Qi family. The young girl twirled her long hair with her fingers. She turned around and opened the window, looking in the direction of the Golden Sky Tower. It made him hesitate. The young lady's footsteps were hesitant. Suddenly, she took advantage of the moment when the person behind her was not paying attention. With a light tap of her toes, her figure leaped forward. Young miss, don't go. However, the young lady's movements were graceful, like a feather in the wind. With a light sway, she had already drifted far away, making it impossible for the maid behind her to catch up. Quick! Go and inform the chief that the young miss ran away again. In front of the Golden Sky Tower, a group of people had already sealed off the 3 surrounding streets, and no one was allowed to enter or leave. Gu Bingwei had also surrounded the Golden Sky Tower. However, they did not directly attack. If they allowed Li Zongjie to act out of desperation and kill them, it would not be worth it. For this operation, other than Gu Bingwei, the elders of the Gu family and the disciples of the Gu family had also come to watch. These people wanted to see what kind of person had the guts to come to the Gu family's territory and provoke them. There were also some disciples of the Gu family who wanted to see what would happen to Gu Zhuyuan. After all, the competition for resources between the disciples of the Gu family was quite intense. If Gu Zhuyuan died, it would be a very satisfying matter for them. At the very least, they would be able to get more resources. Many people were also hoping that Gu Zhuyuan would be killed. Our young master has asked the person in charge to come in. The Liangshan brothers walked out and saw so many people in front of them. They were like an army that had sealed off the area. This lineup was serious. If Gu Zhuyuan was not in their hands, they would not have been able to escape. They reckoned that these people would have already killed their way here. Elder, don't take the risk. Gu Tianxing naturally knew that he could not take the risk. He did not know what kind of tricks the other party had set up in the Golden Sky Tower, and was waiting for Gu Tianxing to throw his life away. Our young master said that once the person in charge comes, let that brat go. One of the Liangshan brothers said. Gu Tianxing, who was still hesitating, let down his guard at this moment. Ignoring the persuasion of the people around him, he directly raised his hand. If I don't come out in 5 minutes, attack. No matter what, you must kill Li Zongjio. As for these people, chase them to the ends of the earth. Kill them all. Gu Tianxing said indifferently. These words were clearly said for the people in the Golden Sky Tower to hear. His goal was to intimidate them. Being surrounded by so many experts, it was impossible for them not to be nervous. It was impossible for them to escape unscathed. With the strength that the Gu family had gathered here, they could kill everyone in a matter of minutes. Not a single one of them would be able to escape. Therefore, these people were already dead. Right now, it was time to see how these people would struggle before death, and what tricks they could play before absolute power. Elder, be careful. The command of the scene was handed over to the Gu family's 5th elder, Gu Xingyun. The 4th elder was wandering the world outside, and was not in the family. The 5th elder Gu Xingyun watched as Gu Tianxing entered the Golden Sky Tower. He did not know why, but he had a bad premonition in his heart. Gu Tianxing entered the Golden Sky Tower. With a glance, he saw the heavily injured Gu Zhuyuan. However, Gu Tianxing was not in a hurry to show his concern. I've come as promised. Release my Gu family's disciple. Gu Tianxing's figure was tall and straight, and his gaze was arrogant. However, wherever his gaze passed, it was filled with silent ridicule and intimidation. He looked at the people in the surroundings, as if they were already dead. Li Zongjio, don't blame my Gu family for not giving you a chance. As long as you hand over the inheritance fire seed, cripple your own cultivation, and kneel in front of my Gu family's gate for 7 days and 7 nights, my Gu family can let bygones be bygones. Gu Tianxing said. His words seemed to be extremely lenient and benevolent towards Li Zongjio. Chapter 10:20. Gu Tianxing clasped his hands behind his back and turned around, as if waiting for Li Zongjio to kneel over. Look, I told you that these people are very arrogant. Young man, I'm not bullying you. You saw it for yourself, so you can't blame me. Li Zongjio spoke kindly to Gu Zhuyuan, who was beside him. Gu Zhuyuan was lifted up. When he heard Gu Tianxing's words, he widened his eyes and shook his head repeatedly, as if he was trying his best to stop Gu Tianxing. However, Gu Tianxing secretly gave Gu Zhuyuan a reassuring look. In fact, Li Zongjio had already made a bet with Gu Zhuyuan before Gu Tianxing had come in. If Gu Tianxing had spoken nicely, and not threatened Luo Yunyang, and put on airs, Luo Yunyang would have let Gu Zhuyuan go immediately. However, if Gu Tianxing had only threatened Luo Yunyang, Li Zongjio would have had no choice but to remove some things from Gu Zhuyuan's body. Remove one of his legs first. Li Zongjio was kind enough to order his loyal subordinate, Kuan Erisher, to use the Kuan winged spear in his hands to chop off Gu Zhuyuan's right leg. Fresh blood splattered on the floor. It was rather gory and eye-catching. Gu Tianxing had not expected that Li Zongjio would actually dare to take this seriously and chop off Gu Zhuyuan's leg right in front of Gu Tianxing's face. You must have a death wish. Li Zongjio, do you want the Li family to suffer a calamity? Gu Tianxing pointed at Li Zongjio angrily and roared. This was his biological grandson. He had raised him up with great difficulty, yet one of his legs had been chopped off. This leg was basically crippled. Gu Zhuyuan's mouth was gagged, so he could only mumble and struggle. Eventually, he fell to the ground and fainted. He could not even withstand the pain of losing a leg. It was a wonder how this Yuan monarch had managed to cultivate to this level. This group of people brought by Li Zongjio was basically a group of people who had been through countless life and death struggles. They had killed countless experts of the same level, and even some who were stronger. This was the reason why they were able to stand here today. The suffering they had suffered, and the pain they had experienced was not something that could be resolved with a mere broken leg. Thus, when they saw that Gu Zhuyuan had actually fainted from the pain, they were extremely disdainful. At this moment, facing the large-scale attack of the Gu family, if he wanted to ensure his survival, he could not be weak. It was as if he was facing a pack of starving tigers and wolves, ready to pounce and tear him to shreds at any time. If you think of running away at this time, you will only encourage these wild beasts. Oh, you still dare to threaten me? Old thing, don't you understand the situation? Li Zhongjio's fingers twitched. Kuan Erishur understood, and chopped off Gu Zhiyuan's other leg. This caused Gu Zhiyuan, who had been unconscious, to flip over and get up. Woo woo. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and he was covered in cold sweat. The veins on his neck were bulging. Why didn't he just kill him? Why did he have to endure such pain? He had only met a girl in this room to study some yuan skills. Why had he suffered such a calamity? Li Zhongjio. Gu Tianxing pointed at Li Zhongjio, and was about to curse. However, when he thought about how this was his grandson, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. At the moment, Gu Tianxing could only extend a trembling finger and point at Li Zhongjio. He did not dare say anything too extreme for fear of angering Li Zhongjio. Kneel. Li Zhongjio crossed his legs and looked indifferently at Gu Tianxing. At that moment, Gu Tianxing had gone from being the third elder of the Gu family to being a powerless old man. This was all for the sake of allowing Gu Zhiyuan to live. The shopkeeper, who was hiding behind the counter, also quietly poked his head out and watched this scene. Although Gu Tianxing clenched his fists and trembled all over, he lowered his head. He wanted to kneel, but he could not. I know you won't kneel, and I don't intend to make you kneel. Take his head. Kuan Erishur expressionlessly chopped off Gu Zhiyuan's head. Yuan. When Gu Tianxing saw this, he immediately roared at the sky in an unbridled manner. Gu Zhiyuan's head rolled in front of Gu Tianxing. Gu Tianxing did not hesitate to pick up the head, not even caring that he was covered in blood. Don't even think about leaving Skygold City alive. That's what I said. Gu Tianxing stood up in shock. In the next moment, an extremely terrifying aura erupted from Gu Tianxing's body as the power surged out. It was as if a terrifying wave had been set off in the entire inn. Boom! Li Zhongjio's figure flashed and punched Gu Tianxing's head. On the spot, Gu Tianxing was sent flying. Boom! Gu Tianxing held Gu Zhiyuan's head and landed in the middle of the Gu soldiers. Protect the third elder. Gu Xingyun, the fifth elder, roared angrily. Take these people down. The 78 Gu soldiers roared in unison. The entire Skygold Inn was about to collapse. These 78 people were all at the Yuan King realm. Moreover, the few commanders leading them were all Yuan King realm experts. Black Dragon Hammer. Li Zhongjio leaped with the Black Dragon Hammer in his hand and smashed it down on the 78 Gu soldiers. Boom! The violent power of lightning surged out crazily. The Gu soldiers in front of him were instantly enveloped by the power of lightning. The entire Skygold Inn seemed to be illuminated by the lightning. The sky was bright. None of the Gu soldiers cried out in pain. This was because their bodies were stiff and numb under the terrifying electric current. The lightning lasted for close to 10 breaths of time. The terrifying lightning pool formed by the power of lightning made it so that no one dared to approach it. They could only watch from afar. Even Gu Xingyun and the others were retreating rapidly, involuntarily releasing their yuan power. The first thing they were thinking about was how to block the lightning and not be engulfed by it. Boom! The last ray of light disappeared. 78 figures of the ancient guards fell to the ground like human-shaped charcoal. Dozens of bangs sounded as they fell to the ground. A large number of charred corpses appeared in front of the crowd. Among them were the corpses of 3 Yuan King realm experts. And the one who had caused all these injuries was the young man with the hammer. Just looking at this scene sent chills down one's spine. It was your Gu family who provoked me first. Now it's reasonable for me to destroy your entire family. Li Zhongjio spread his hands in disdain. It was as if Li Zhongjio was the real victim in this battle. He was the one who was at a disadvantage. Anyone who saw this would have the urge to strangle Li Zhongjio to death. However, there were still hundreds of people gathered at the scene. They did not dare to move at all, because they were shocked by the 78 corpses. Not a single one of them was left alive. Instant kill. This is the power of the evil lord. Wan Yulan was shocked when she saw Li Zhongjio using the hammer again. Chapter 1021. The power of this hammer had only been displayed in the Haika dynasty. He believed that the people of the Black Canal Royal City would be able to remember the hammer of the evil dominator. Now they were in the Xingyan dynasty. These people did not recognize the hammer of the evil lord. Hence such a scene occurred. After the light disappeared, they saw Li Zongjio standing in the darkness with a small black hammer in his hand. Not to mention the enemy, even the people of the White Deer Manor, standing behind Li Zongjio, were shocked. When they saw this scene, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Some people were prepared to fight, and when the situation turned bad, they would just surrender. After all, they were just doing things for money. These people from the Gu family might not be so ruthless. Large families like this cared a lot about their reputation and reputation. However, they did not expect Li Zongjio to kill the Gu family's painstakingly nurtured Gu soldiers in an instant. The reputation of the torture hall was basically built up by these Gu soldiers. The senior disciples of the Gu family were all dumbfounded. The dozens of corpses in front of them were still relatively intact. Even their positions had not been moved. The entire Gu soldier troop was neat and tidy. It was extremely shocking. These were specially nurtured by the Gu family. They were able to achieve their current status because of these Gu soldiers. Now they were all killed in an instant. It felt like a dream. Everyone Li Zongjio only came to Skygold City for a vacation. First, I was attacked by dozens of unknown experts outside the city. Now I want to stay in the city, but I was repeatedly humiliated by that brat from the Gu family. Not only that, the Gu family even sent people here to kill me. Since that's the case, there's nothing more to say. Kill. Li Zongjio's voice spread throughout the city. Almost every corner of the city could hear it clearly. Li Zongjio's words sounded like a person who had been oppressed for a long time, and finally couldn't help but fight back at this moment. Some of the bystanders who didn't know the situation naturally didn't know the situation, because Li Zongjio had really suffered so much injustice. However, the members of the Gu family could only secretly curse him for being despicable and shameless. It had always been Li Zongjio who provoked him first. Come to Heavenly Gold City for sightseeing? When have you ever seen someone bring so many top-notch experts out to play? After Li Zongjio spoke, he did not give the members of the Gu family much time to react. The people behind him had already pounced forward like a pack of hungry wolves, directly attacking the people in front of them. Retreat! Gu Xingyan shouted in a low voice. At this moment, the Gu clan's momentum had completely collapsed. The remaining forces were unable to resist Li Zongjio, so they had to withdraw their forces first. The Gu family fought as they retreated. Very quickly they directly hid in the Gu family. The gates of the Gu family were tightly shut. Li Zongjio and the others did not directly attack the headquarters of the Gu family. However, at this moment a loud roar suddenly came from the sky. Soon after, a pitch-black figure flashed across the sky above the Gu family at an extremely fast speed. What's that? The sudden loud vibration made the people who had just returned to the Gu family to defend the Gu family puzzled. Something seems to have fallen. Someone pointed to the sky. They saw something that looked like a water bucket falling directly toward the courtyard of the Gu family. Stop that thing. Although Gu Xingyan didn't know what it was, his intuition told him that it was definitely not something good. Furthermore, it was something extremely dangerous. Immediately, a Yuan monarch guard rose into the air and slashed in the direction of the water bucket from dozens of meters away. The saber aura collided with the water bucket. Immediately, a dark red ray of light burst out. Boom! In an instant, all the buildings in the Gu family's courtyard seemed to have been uniformly chopped off. Countless bricks and stones flew out. He continued to attack in the distance. Many disciples of the Gu family were on the verge of fainting after experiencing this terrifying explosion. Coupled with the attack of these stones, they all spat out mouthfuls of blood and were quickly sent flying. The entire Gu clan was in chaos. It was as if a meteor had fallen into the Gu clan. The tremors that were set off caused the floor of the Gu clan to be completely overturned. Just the aftermath alone was enough to cause the outer walls of the Sky Gold Tower to crack. The Gu family's residence was filled with dust and thick smoke that filled the sky. The Gu family had been bombed. The Gu family, which had dominated the Jin region for many years, had their headquarters bombed. That explosion alone had killed many of the Gu family's elites. It was very difficult for anyone below the Yuan monarch level to survive such a powerful explosion. Benevolence? Being benevolent to the enemy was being cruel to oneself. It was clear that Li Zongjio had a very thorough grasp of this kind of simple logic. Qi Yanran, on the other hand, frowned. However, she did not say anything. The weak were prey to the strong. Qi Yanran was also clear about this. Furthermore, everyone knew about the Gu family's morals. If they were not strong enough today, the Gu family would not have let them go so easily. It was impossible to leave this place alive. If one wanted to avoid the disputes in this chaotic world, the only way was to cultivate to the highest level and not provoke others. Otherwise, one would never be able to stay out of trouble. Therefore, Qi Yanran was relieved. In this world, no one was innocent. Even if Qi Yanran was killed that day, she would naturally accept her fate, because this was her fate. She was not as good as others, so it was like this. In Ming Mansion, previously, someone had reported that Li Zongjio had already met the Gu guards. It seemed like a fight would break out at any time. However, in less than a minute, someone immediately came to report that Li Zongjio had killed all the Gu guards by himself. Fuck you. Do you think I'm a fool? Meng Hao kicked the soldier who came to report and sent him flying. Did he really think that Meng Hao was an idiot? Did he think that dozens of Gu guards were easy to deal with? The person who was sent flying felt very wronged. It was true. Why did the general not believe it? Sir, this is bad. The Gu family. The Gu family killed Li Zongjio? No, the Gu family. The Gu family was blown up. Blown up? Meng Hao was stunned. What kind of operation was this? How did Li Zongjio do it? To be able to blow up the Gu family, it must mean that Li Zongjio had the upper hand. Could it be that this guy actually defeated the Gu clan? Meng Hao swallowed hard. It was not hard to imagine that if Li Zongjio really defeated the Gu family, Meng Hao would definitely die. People like Li Zongjio would always do what he said. Impossible. The Gu family has been in Jin province for so many years. How could they only have this little ability? The Gu family head has not even made a move yet. You guys forget it. I'll go check it out myself. Chapter 1022. The huge explosion just now had alarmed the entire Skygold City. Of course, it also included the people who were still in Skygold City. Those who were originally on the Gu family's side also quietly retreated and sent people to keep an eye on the situation. Now, it seemed that Li Zongjio had the upper hand. But in reality, Li Zongjio had hastened his own death. Li Zongjio's actions would definitely enrage the Gu family. Of course, this included the Gu family's expert, who had just broken through to the sovereign realm. Just you wait, this kid is dead. That's a sovereign realm expert. Did he think that he was bragging? He really exists. Under normal circumstances, even primitive emperors rarely appeared. Even in the current Gu family, there weren't many primitive emperors. Now so many of them had been killed by Li Zongjio, hence they were even rarer. Not to mention supreme being experts. He had never even heard of them before. Unless Li Zongjio was prepared to face a sovereign realm expert. Otherwise, his actions just now were already a death sentence for himself. Li Zongjio and the others didn't go in to admire the miserable state of the Gu family. On the contrary, the dust that filled the Gu family had completely stopped at this moment. It was as if there was a force that had brushed the dust away. At the same time, the injured people of the Gu family were injected with a different force. With the injection of this force, the people of the Gu family became more energetic. At this moment, they seemed to be full of vitality. Originally, they were all depressed and lifeless. But at this moment they were all gone. With the appearance of this force, they immediately widened their eyes. Ma. Family head. An injured disciple of the Gu family sat on a rock. Originally, he was incomparably afraid and disheartened after experiencing such a huge disaster. But when this force hit him, he immediately felt hope. It's the power of the family head. The pain of the injuries on his body also rapidly weakened. Moreover, this force was rapidly helping him to recover from his injuries. Originally, His internal organs were directly pierced by a piece of gravel, but now they were recovering easily. Many of them had suffered fatal injuries and were on the verge of death. At this moment, all of them were gradually recovering their vitality. At this moment, it was as if a god was healing them. And the only one who could do this was their omnipotent patriarch. Ancient firmament. Yes, patriarch. Patriarch has come out of seclusion. The patriarch has finally come out of seclusion. When they felt the power of Gu Tsangtian, Gu Xingyun, and the rest were so agitated that their eyes were brimming with hot tears. This disaster had come too suddenly even though they had made preparations in advance. But he still didn't expect it. This kind of power actually came so quickly. They were simply caught off guard. Suddenly, a beam of light descended from the dark sky. Everyone in every corner of Heavenly Gold City was able to see these signs clearly. Could it be that the master of the Gu family was about to ascend to immortality? When he saw that the other party had such means, Qi Yanran's heart sank. Everyone was nervous at this moment. How could they not be? A supreme martial artist. Within the strong light, 3 figures appeared. They were the great elder and second elder of the Gu family, as well as the patriarch of the Gu family, Gu Tsangtian. You haven't even stabilized your realm, and you're already putting on airs here. Li Zongjio said in disdain at this critical moment that was suffocating. Then, he charged out with the black dragon hammer in his hand. All of you, stay where you are and protect Yanran. After Li Zongjio said this sentence, his body soared into the sky. He charged towards Gu Tsangtian. In the face of such a godlike existence, he actually dared to take the initiative to attack. If Li Zongjio really fell in Heavenly Gold City today, it would definitely become a legend in the future. A newborn calf isn't afraid of a tiger. To dare to charge towards a supreme martial artist, Li Zongjio's name is enough to be known by everyone. It's a pity. For such a genius, even the heavens wouldn't let him live. Some people shook their heads and said, obviously, they understood Li Zongjio's fate. The heavens were jealous of geniuses. Otherwise, how could there be so few experts in the world? Gu Tsangtian casually healed the hundreds of injured members of the Gu family. Although the Gu family was now in such a miserable state, Gu Tsangtian didn't have any psychological fluctuations. As long as he was around, the Gu family wouldn't be destroyed. Naturally, he didn't have to worry. The future of the Gu family never rested on these people. It rested on him, Gu Tsangtian. However, when Gu Tsangtian appeared, someone actually dashed towards him. This angered him. This angered Gu Tsangtian. Just a mortal. Kill him, Gu Tsangtian said. He was still bathing in the saint light and enjoying the worship from the people in Heavenly Gold City. The first elder and second elder of the Gu clan beside him also took action simultaneously. Even if Gu Tsangtian didn't take action, the 2 elders still combined forces. In an instant, the wind howled and the black wind blew. Like tens of thousands of flying swords, they slashed towards Li Zongjio. Hidden dragon art. Li Zongjio's figure instantly entered a state of ethereal nothingness. The great elder and second elder of the Gu family were respectively grade 9 and grade 8 origin emperors. Usually they were in a state of seclusion. It was because the Gu family had so many experts that they were able to have such absolute authority in Jin region. Even the royal family of the Xingyan dynasty had always maintained a soft policy towards the Gu family. If they were to touch the Gu family, it would definitely be an extremely dangerous matter. What the Xingyan dynasty needed now was stability. Since it could be stabilized, it would temporarily leave this threat here. At the same time, it would also serve as a warning to the nobles in the royal family. If the royal family was in a peaceful state, it would be difficult to reignite their fighting spirit once they lost their competitiveness. If they were to maintain a state of alertness, they would naturally be able to maintain their fighting strength. This way, the royal family wouldn't decline so quickly. When Li Zongjio's figure disappeared in front of them, the 2 of them also had a bad feeling in their hearts. In order to ensure absolute safety, the 2 of them immediately released the power of a top-notch origin emperor expert. Suddenly, 2 powerful waves of air spread out in all directions. Is that all you've got? Originally, they wanted to force Li Zongjio's figure to appear. However, Li Zongjiu's figure suddenly appeared in front of the Great Elder. Ancient extermination palm. The Great Elder didn't panic at all. So what if he appeared and disappeared unpredictably? If he dared to appear, he would directly kill him without holding back. Waves of annihilation qi wrapped Li Zongjiu. At the same time, Li Zongjiu swung his hammer at the Great Elder. From this hammer, something seemed to have erupted. A pitch-black dragon claw directly grabbed the Great Elder's head. Boom! The Great Elder's head was instantly blasted apart. Blood splattered in the sky. Li Zongjiu also withstood the opponent's ancient extermination palm. All the power was absorbed by Li Zongjiu's body. The ancient golden body art was activated and dissolved all the power of the opponent. A golden tattoo was faintly visible on Li Zongjiu's body. Ha! Seeing this scene, the second elder also opened his eyes wide. Ancient extermination palm. The second elder hurriedly activated his move. Obviously, he could see that Li Zongjiu was digesting the power just now. However, this boss died just like that? The second elder was a little confused. Chapter 1023. Second elder also struck Li Zongjiu with his palm. However, Li Zongjiu did not move at all. Instead, a terrifying aura was emitted from Li Zongjiu's body. It rushed to the front of second elder and enveloped him. At this moment, second elder's body seemed to have been dragged into a strange space. The space was filled with blood qi. The blood qi drowned second elder completely, as though he was soaked in a pool of blood. Looking at the situation, Gu Songtian could not believe that Li Zongjiu had taken care of the first elder so easily. Looking at how the second elder was about to be crippled, he waved his hand gently, and a surge of energy pulled the second elder back. He broke free from Li Zongjiu's power. At the same time, he pushed Li Zongjiu with his palm. It looked like a gentle palm, but one could see that the space in front of him was shattering inch by inch. It was like a terrifying meta beast that was shattering the space in front of him. Finally, it rushed to Li Zongjiu and tried to devour Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu raised his hand and punched out. Boom! The shattered space finally stabilized. After the power was stabilized, Gu Songtian seemed to be a little impatient. Second elder had broken free, but his body was suspended in mid-air. It was as though he had lost his soul. Courting death. The supreme aura instantly attacked Li Zongjiu. It had been a long time since he had felt the supreme aura. Even when he came into contact with it, it was still so familiar. Li Zongjiu merely waved his sleeves slightly, and a terrifying energy swept out. It was as if a level 10 hurricane had swept across the place, completely trapping Li Zongjiu within it. Fortunately, the black dragon hammer in his hand released a force that protected Li Zongjiu. Hence, he was not crushed by the strong wind. To kill you, I only need to blow a breath. An illusory figure appeared behind Gu Songtian. It gradually enlarged like a reincarnated Buddha. He blew a breath at Li Zongjiu. Supreme aura. Li Zongjiu saw the breath that Gu Songtian blew out, turning into a powerful sword that charged towards him. I've never used this move before. Thunderous force. The black dragon hammer summoned the dark clouds in the sky, and they immediately formed thunderbolts that struck down towards Gu Songtian. The energy sword instantly hit Li Zongjiu's body. Boom! Li Zongjiu's entire body was sent flying. But at the same time, the thunderbolts continued to strike down towards Gu Songtian. It forcefully shattered the illusionary figure that Gu Songtian had conjured to show off. The golden body that he had painstakingly released was actually destroyed by a mortal ant like Li Zongjiu. The thunderbolts that fell down were neither painful nor ticklish to him. But he had no choice but to avoid these thunderbolts. His supreme aura had just stabilized and the thunderbolts were unusually ferocious. If the supreme aura that he had nurtured for a long time was destroyed, he would have to spend a few years to nurture this aura. Courting death, Gu Songtian took a step forward. But this step crossed a distance of a few thousand meters, and he chased after Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu followed the energy sword. His body appeared tens of thousands of meters away. In the eyes of outsiders, Li Zongjiu was trying to escape. Gu Songtian immediately chased after him. In the eyes of others, Li Zongjiu's body had already disappeared into the horizon. But in actual fact, in Gu Songtian's eyes, Li Zongjio was like a flame in a pitch-black environment. No matter where he hid, there was nowhere to hide. He easily locked onto Li Zongjio's position. The two of them rushed out of the city and instantly disappeared. Qi Yan ran, and the rest were extremely anxious when they saw this. Where did they go? Can you find them? Qi Yanran looked at Wan Yulan who was beside her. Others found it hard to believe that Wan Yulan in front of them was actually a level 6 spirit master. Her mental strength was enough to sweep through mountains and rivers. Let me find them. Wan Yulan immediately released her mental strength, but after a short while she kept it back. No, the influence here is too strong. My mental strength can't detect anything, Wan Yulan said. The main reason was that the Supreme Being's aura was lingering around here. If Wan Yulan used her mental strength, it would be easily crushed. Once it was crushed, the situation wouldn't be good. Kill these people. Gu Xingyun stood up and shouted. The family head had already gone to deal with Li Zongjio. Without Li Zongjio, the people in front of them were undoubtedly courting death. If they wanted to go against the Gu family, they couldn't wait for the family head to come back and deal with these people. Gu Xingyun couldn't wait to kill these people in front of him. They caused the Gu family to suffer such heavy losses. He had to capture these people and kill them as a sacrifice to the heavens. People of Skygold City, listen up. Kill one, and you will be rewarded. Gu Xingyun roared. These words were obviously meant for the big families in the city. The Gu family didn't restrict the growth of these families. Anyway, no matter how they grew, it was impossible for them to surpass the Gu family. I'll just let you guys develop on your own. At the critical moment, the forces that you've developed will also occasionally become the Gu clan's hired force. So why not? Therefore, the people of the surrounding families were waiting for an opportunity to take action. They didn't hesitate anymore. This was a good opportunity to perform meritorious deeds. If they performed meritorious deeds now, they would definitely become good friends in the eyes of the Gu family. With just a word, their business in the entire Jin region would be opened. Fight! As Li Zongjio's woman, Qi Yanran's heroism wasn't any worse than Li Zongjio's. Facing the siege of at least a dozen families, Qi Yanran held the desolate heaven essence in her hand. White light flickered and she looked majestic. An primitive emperor took the lead and charged towards Qi Yanran. He could naturally see that Qi Yanran was only in the Yuan King realm. Moreover, she was the second brain of these people. Taking her down would be enough to restrict these people. However, before this primitive emperor could get close to Li Zongjio, he suddenly stopped. Wan Yulan acutely felt that there seemed to be an unusual aura in the surroundings. Peng! The head of that primitive emperor fell to the ground. At the same time, blood gushed out from the broken neck like a fountain. What? The appearance of this scene immediately shocked Wan Yulan and Qi Yanran. How could they be at ease when such a strange scene appeared? Peng! Another head fell to the ground. Fifth Elder! The disciples of the Gu family exclaimed. The one who died this time was actually Gu Xingyun. Gu Xingyun's head rolled on the ground. There was no pain or shock in his eyes, as if he was in a normal state. Chapter 1024. As Gu Xingyun's head fell to the ground, some of the guards who were protecting Gu Xingyun began to panic. Assassins! Assassins! The surrounding guards were like a group of headless flies, wandering around randomly. In the process, they caused even more chaos. The seventh elder's head was also cut off. The seventh elder is dead. The eighth elder, what happened to you? Some of the elders of the Gu family were chopped to the ground in the same way. All of their heads were cut off neatly. The people of the Gu family immediately panicked. All of them were in a mess. Who are these people? Qi Yanran and Wan Yulan immediately saw some figures rapidly retreating. Even in such a chaotic situation, they were still able to kill people. Moreover, their retreat was as smooth as flowing water. There was not the slightest bit of delay, and not even the slightest trace was left behind. They just disappeared directly. Over there! Wan Yulan immediately saw a figure standing on a tall building in the distance. She didn't know this figure before. Why did he help at this moment? Those top-notch assassins who had been on the move just now all returned to this person's side after they had finished killing. There were a total of 4 people. Who is that person? Qi Yanran didn't know the person in front of her. The person nodded slightly to Qi Yanran. He directly disappeared from the top of the building with the 4 top assassins. Is he Li Zongjio's friend? Qi Yanran was surprised. Every time Li Zongjio acted, it seemed that he was hot-headed and afraid. However, in fact, Li Zongjio had already made all the preparations. If he was really not sure, why would he bring Qi Yanran to die with him? Qi Yanran's heart gradually calmed down. Being with Li Zongjio always seemed so hasty, but Qi Yanran didn't regret it in her heart. After all, being able to be with Li Zongjio was also a very happy thing. Although this guy was usually very busy, the gentleness in his bones could be clearly felt. But to deal with a supreme expert, are you really sure? Qi Yanran was extremely worried. If it was an ordinary primitive emperor expert, it would be fine, but now they were facing a real supreme expert. A supreme expert that they had never heard of. Even when they came, Qi Xiaohun sighed again and again. When he learned that this guy almost trapped Qi Yanran in the Qi family, he didn't want her to come out. However, Qi Xiaohun was not a person who was afraid of death. Although he loved his daughter dearly, he loved her even more. If he locked Qi Yanran in the Qi family, she would hate him for the rest of her life. Therefore he simply let her go. After all, Qi Yanran had grown up and had her own ideas. As long as she thought it was right, she would stick to it. Of course, Qi Xiaohun was still hoping that Li Zongjio could defeat a supreme being expert. At least, he could make the royal family members of the Xingyan take action, at least. This was what Qi Xiaohun was looking for. In this way they could be saved. Was saved. Qi Yanran came back to her senses, and no longer felt melancholy. If Li Zongjio was defeated, they would definitely die. In that case, they would take down the Gu family first. Kill the Gu family. Qi Yanran, a Yuan monarch, took the lead. The power of the desolate heaven essence in her hands was too strong. Anyone who got close to her basically couldn't withstand it. Furthermore, the power of the desolate heaven essence was clearly more exquisite in Qi Yanran's hands. It turned into a long whip, easily wrapping around the enemy, and then ruthlessly throwing them away. Almost all the elders of the Gu family were dead. Even if there were still some left, they didn't dare to show their faces. As for the surrounding families that came to help, all the leaders were beheaded without exception. These people were so frightened that they quickly retreated. They didn't dare to move forward. They didn't know how many soldiers and horses the mysterious assassin had. In this undercurrent, they unknowingly lost their heads. In such a dangerous and chaotic situation, it was better not to join in the fun. Some people also retreated far away. These people from the Gu family were killed so miserably. They would probably be in trouble next. However, the most important thing was the battle between Li Zongjio and Gu Tsangtian. If Gu Tsangtian was defeated, then Li Zongjio and the rest would be considered as the true victory. Qi Yanran led people to attack the Gu family. Many people from the Gu family also scattered and fled. Some of the so-called elite disciples of the Gu family wanted to form a battle formation to take down Qi Yanran. In the end, they were beaten up like dead dogs and were basically crippled. There were also people from the Gu family who were escaping through a secret passage. The black wind blood shadow condor directly moved and whizzed out. It killed all the people who took advantage of the chaos to escape. Li Zongjio brought Gu Tsangtian all the way to a sea of trees. Below them was an ancient forest. As long as one left the human race's city for a certain distance, it would basically be the existence of the Tsangtian forest. The range of activities of the meta-beasts far exceeded that of the human race. Li Zongjio and Gu Tsangtian released their terrifying auras. The meta-beasts below could obviously feel the deterrence from the two of them. Some of the meta-beasts who were good at digging holes dug holes and escaped. Almost all the meta-beasts were hiding in the caves, shivering and not daring to move. Most of the people from the Gu family should be dead by now. Li Zongjio stopped and turned to look at Gu Tsangtian. At the same time, Gu Tsangtian also stopped. He was a little surprised as he had not expected Li Zongjio's speed to be so fast. Even he could not catch up with Li Zongjio's speed. This made Gu Tsangtian very surprised. Your secret movement skill is not bad. Hand it over. Gu Tsangtian said calmly. At the same time, he turned to look in the direction of the Sky Gold City. If one person becomes Buddha, 10,000 people become demons. I have said this before. As long as I, Gu Songtian, am alive, the Gu family will be alive. Gu Songtian said slowly. At this moment, he finally looked at Li Zongjio officially. I heard that someone killed a branch of the Gu family in the Holy Flame Royal City. You should be proud to be able to do this at your age. Gu Songtian said. The 9 heavens of the sovereign realm. There are 3 gates in a day. You are merely at the first heaven, and the lower Yuan gate realm. You are not fit to talk about me. Li Zongjio shook his head and said calmly. When Li Zongjio said this, Gu Songtian was even more surprised. How could Li Zongjio be able to tell the mystery of the sovereign realm? Even though Gu Songtian had broken through to the supreme state, he still had to spend many days before he could understand the profoundness behind it. The reason why he had to understand the profoundness behind it was because he had to know clearly what a supreme state was. Only when he stepped into the sovereign realm could he understand the essence of it. Otherwise, he would never be able to understand it. Could it be that Li Zongjio was also a sovereign realm expert? You are a sovereign realm expert too? Not now. But if I want to kill you, it is more than enough. Chapter 1025. More than enough. These 4 words were just like 4 gigantic mouths that were right in front of Gu Songtian's face, mocking him continuously. No one knew who gave Li Zongjio the courage to mock a supreme being expert. Gu Songtian was able to break through to the supreme realm because he had gathered hundreds of years of resources from the Gu family. Vitality stones, elixirs and spiritual herbs. He had used countless methods and sacrificed a lot to allow Gu Songtian to have his current cultivation and breakthrough to the supreme realm. All along, the Gu family had placed all their hopes on Gu Songtian. They had been suppressed by the Xingyan dynasty. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Now that they had a supreme realm expert, they had the power to challenge the Xingyan dynasty. At least the Xingyan dynasty wouldn't dare to kill the Gu family anymore. They might even need to be on good terms with the Gu family. Otherwise, a supreme realm expert from the Gu family could kill everyone in the royal family, leaving the Xingyan dynasty without a successor. Destroying a royal family was a piece of cake for a supreme realm expert. At least from Gu Songtian's point of view, a primitive emperor expert was extremely intimidating. But now, a brat who had cultivated for less than 20 years dared to say such harsh words in front of Gu Songtian. Today, I would like to see how you are going to be more than enough. Gu Songtian snorted and waved his hand. A terrifying fire python appeared behind him. Li Zongjio's strength wasn't that simple. Although he didn't know how he did it, the fact that the Great Elder and Second Elder weren't a match for Li Zongjio was enough to know. Below the Supreme Realm, Li Zongjio was almost invincible. But whether he could win against a Supreme Realm expert would depend on the situation. Judging from the scene just now, this brat might still have some tricks up his sleeve. This fire python was the primordial fire that Gu Songtian cultivated. It was the primordial spirit that he cultivated. This primordial spirit that was born from energy was far more terrifying than the energy that came from killing primordial beasts. Ancient and modern towering flames. The intense flames seemed to be burning through space and time. Although the flames seemed to be very far away, it also seemed to be right in front of him. It could burn him at any time, swaying unsteadily in this empty space. The giant python was comprehended by Gu Songtian from the towering flames, and it became an extremely powerful force in Gu Songtian's hands. Go! Gu Songtian didn't waste any time. With a wave of his hand, the towering flaming python twisted its body and charged towards Li Zongjio. Along the way, the space it passed through was filled with the heat of fire elemental energy. Boom! Like a small world filled with flames, it rushed towards Li Zongjio. Black Dragon Origin Soul. Li Zongjio summoned the Black Dragon Original Spirit from the Black Dragon Hammer. Currently, Li Zongjio was in the primitive Emperor realm. The Black Dragon Original Spirit that was summoned was actually similar in size to the supreme level towering flame python in front of him. Moreover, in terms of aura, the Black Dragon Original Spirit was clearly superior. In his previous life, The Black Dragon was the supreme being of the Dragon Clan. Even if his realm had fallen, although he had only recovered to the primitive Emperor realm, it was definitely not something that a small snake that had just broken through to the Supreme Being realm could compare to. The Black Dragon original spirit was filled with lightning as it charged towards the towering flame python. Boom! A shocking shockwave swept out. In the forest below, the trees within 10,000 meters were all broken. Fallen leaves swirled in the air. Other than the tremors further away, there were blazing flames. It encompassed the area within a radius of 10,000 meters. Dragon Clan Origin Soul? This is what you are relying on. Gu Songtian didn't recognize that the black dragon in front of him was the supreme being of the Dark Dragon Clan. He only treated it as a more precious origin beast that had the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. However, when he saw that the primordial spirit of the Dark Dragon Clan was on par with his towering flame python, he was immediately shocked. How is this possible? There was an entire realm gap between the two of them. It wasn't easy to make up for it. In fact, it was impossible to bridge the gap between them. If it was so easy to make up for the difference, why would there be such a huge difference in realms? The two beasts had just woken up. They fought until the sky turned dark. Gu Songtian took advantage of this gap to release his own realm power. Immediately, Li Zongjie was drawn into a world filled with flames. It was like the inside of a volcano. The blazing energy in the surroundings seemed like it could melt a person at any moment. Die. After killing Li Zongjie, the Black Dragon original spirit naturally collapsed without a fight. There was no need to continue fighting. Since Li Zongjie was so stubborn, he would spend more effort to send Li Zongjie on his way. Within the realm, there was a huge wave formed by flames that slammed down on Li Zongjie. Boom! Boom! The terrifying energy slammed down on Li Zongjie. However, Li Zongjie stood still on the spot as if he was locked on. Roar! A roar could be heard in the realm. Then, a golden figure dashed out from the flames in the sky. Just the energy on his body seemed to be carefully crafted. Every scale was perfect and dazzling. Roar! The golden dragon original spirit brought Li Zongjie out of the sea of flames. What? Twin original spirits. When he saw Li Zongjie releasing another golden dragon original spirit to protect his body, even Gu Songtian was shocked. He never expected Li Zongjie's talent to be so terrifying. Moreover, the second original spirit was also from the dragon race. Could it be that Li Zongjie had been to Dragon Island before? Or did he have some kind of contract with the dragon race that he could use two original spirits from the dragon race to protect his body? Mountain flipping golden seal. Pagoda palm. Two Saint Realm primordial skills were used. Two palm prints slammed down on Gu Songtian in front of him. The swift and violent power continued to condense, shaking off the surrounding flames. Boom! Gu Songtian was thrown out of the realm by the two palms. However, after Gu Songtian fell out of the realm, he didn't land on the ground. Instead, he was kept into Blood Soul Hell by Li Zongjie. When Gu Songtian's figure appeared in Blood Soul Hell, he came to his senses and realized that he had been kept in Li Zongjie's realm. Boom! Countless blood ghosts rushed towards Gu Songtian. They surrounded Gu Songtian. Among them were the life and death servants that Li Zongjie had just refined. The energy of the life and death servants was returned to them by Li Zongjie. However, when the life and death servants and the blood ghosts rushed out of Blood Soul Hell, they were instantly flattened by Gu Songtian's energy. Boom! The energy of Blood Soul Hell was instantly shattered. The strong impact broke Blood Soul Hell apart. Li Zongjie retracted the energy of Hell in time. Otherwise, it would take a lot of time and effort to build Blood Soul Hell again. Li Zongjie didn't want to do it again. You want to trap me with your realm? Dream on. Don't forget that I am in the Supreme Realm. After saying that, Li Zongjie and Gu Songtian returned to Gu Songtian's volcano realm. Gu Songtian controlled the flames and turned them into fiery palms that slammed towards Li Zongjie. Under the protection of the Golden Dragon original spirit, Li Zongjie was unharmed. However, if this continued, Li Zongjie would definitely be defeated. He had to end this quickly. 3 dragons in 1. Original spirit possession. In an instant. Blood dragon, golden dragon, white dragon. The energy of the three original spirits poured into Li Zhongjiu's body at the same time. Evil Soul Eye. Gu Songtian's eyes couldn't help but be attracted by Li Zhongjiu. If it was an ordinary Evil Soul Eye, it might not be able to attract Gu Songtian's attention. However, with the support of the White Dragon original spirit, at that moment, Li Zhongjiu's mental strength was at least comparable to a 5th-stage origin emperor. With the help of the uniqueness of Evil Soul Eye, Gu Songtian's godly soul was fixed on the spot. Chapter 1026. The Evil Soul Eye could only control Gu Songtian for a moment. After all, Gu Songtian had the sovereign qi protecting him. Gu Songtian had yet to fully integrate his strength into the sovereign realm. Otherwise, Gu Songtian's body would be the supreme body. It was extremely difficult for ordinary powers to break through it. Li Zhongjiu's current move was considered to be the strongest he could muster. His elemental energy was depleted. What he could use was his own body's power. Li Zhongjiu rushed out and punched Gu Songtian's body. Half of Gu Songtian's body was smashed into pieces. Boom! Gu Songtian's body exploded on the spot. However, Gu Songtian didn't die. His important organs were protected by the supreme energy. Li Zhongjiu stretched out his hand and was prepared to dig out Gu Songtian's heart. However, Gu Songtian had already regained his consciousness. He grabbed Li Zhongjiu's hand and flung Li Zhongjiu away. Bam! Li Zhongjiu's energy was depleted. After being flung by Gu Songtian, he fell to the ground and created a huge pit. He was buried in it. At this moment, Li Zhongjiu had also lost his elemental energy glow and was lying in the mud like a mortal. Li Zhongjiu's mouth moved, and he swallowed an elixir that was hidden in his mouth. Gu Songtian looked at the half of his body that was destroyed. His skin and flesh were destroyed. The rest of his body was protected by his supreme energy. If his heart was dug out by Li Zhongjiu, he would probably be dead. This lad has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. Gu Songtian put on a new set of clothes for himself. Similarly, he broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, he was strong enough. If he hadn't broken through to the sovereign realm, he wouldn't know how many times he would have died in Li Zhongjiu's hands. This brat was truly a scourge. He had to be completely eliminated. How is it? What other tricks do you have? Just use them. Gu Songtian's figure appeared beside the huge pit Li Zhongjiu was in. He looked down at Li Zhongjiu from above. His eyes were filled with mockery. Obviously, in his eyes, Li Zhongjiu was already a complete piece of trash who could no longer pose a threat. After all, it was impossible for that move not to consume or injure him. Li Zhongjiu was not a god either. There was a limit to his power, and it was impossible for him to use it without a limit. To be able to force a supreme being into such a state was already something to be proud of. But Gu Songtian wouldn't let this matter leak out, because the Li Zhongjiu in front of him could not continue to live. It was a dead end. Then I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. I still have quite a few tricks up my sleeve that I haven't had the time to use yet. The smile on Gu Songtian's face froze. In the deep pit, Li Zhongjiu's figure had already disappeared. Behind, before Gu Songtian turned his head, he heard a loud boom. Li Zhongjiu's Fury Dragon Catcher was destroyed. This was the power of a super-grade Fire Vulture crystal. It was enough to destroy the other half of Gu Songtian's body. Boom! The clothes that Gu Songtian had just changed into were instantly destroyed. At the same time, his appearance under the clothes was revealed. Gu Songtian immediately felt that his power was depleted. His body was severely injured, and Li Zhongjiu summoned the Black Dragon Hammer back. The towering flaming python lost its target and started to spin around. Although it finally realized that it was going to charge towards Li Zhongjiu, it was too late. The Black Dragon Hammer appeared in Li Zhongjiu's hands. Facing Gu Songtian, who was severely injured and unable to move, he smashed down with his hammer. Bam! Gu Songtian flew out from the impact. The towering flaming python's state dissipated instantly. Because Gu Songtian had suffered a severe blow, his power dissipated, and he was unable to maintain the towering flaming python state. Trash! Li Zhongjiu held the hammer in his hands and walked towards Gu Songtian slowly. Gu Songtian laid on the ground. He had lost all his power and couldn't move at all. He could even be described as dying. When the hammer smashed down, it had already destroyed part of Gu Songtian's internal organs. He had become a useless person. Gu Songtian had never thought that a few days ago, he could be said to be the most dazzling person in the entire Jin state. The most dazzling person. Thousands of gazes were on Gu Songtian. Even the future glory of the Gu family depended on Gu Songtian's leadership. In the blink of an eye, he had become a defeated opponent under Li Zongjio's hammer. This made Gu Songtian sigh in his heart. Why did such a thing happen? This Li Zongjio, he had never thought of provoking him. In actual fact, Gu Songtian didn't care about the situation of the Gu family in the Holy Flame Royal City. He had never thought of finding trouble with Li Zongjio, because in his eyes, Li Zongjio wasn't qualified for him to find trouble with him. But he had never expected. Li Zongjio had found him, and even beat him to such a state. What else was there to say? Nothing could escape from fate. You, let me off. My Gu family, the Gu family will submit to you. Gu Songtian turned around with difficulty, and said to Li Zongjio. At this moment he no longer had the slightest bit of strength. He was just like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He could only obediently wait for death in front of Li Zongjio. Whether he lived or died, it was all up to Li Zongjio. If you had such an attitude from the start, I wouldn't have minded. Li Zongjio sighed helplessly. If you had such an attitude from the start, wouldn't it have been better? Let's not talk about you now. Most of the people in your Gu family are already dead. They have no value. Li Zongjio shook his head. Go on your way in peace. After saying that, Li Zongjio smashed down with his hammer. Gu Songtian fell to the ground and his limbs twitched. You haven't even turned into the body of a sovereign, and you are already so difficult to deal with. If I give you more time, it won't be easy for me to kill you. Li Zongjio hammered a few more times. But Gu Songtian still had a weak aura. He hadn't died yet. Therefore, he had to be very careful when dealing with sovereign-level experts. If he wasn't careful, they would run away. Moreover, he might come back to life on his own. Unless it was someone who was at the same level of cultivation, it would be the most thorough. Go! Li Zongjio flicked his finger, and the soul-summoning beast swayed its body and charged towards Gu Songtian. Using his mystique, he extracted Gu Songtian's soul. Refining this guy's soul is enough to help me break through my mental strength. Li Zongjio thought to himself. He had lost his strength. Gu Songtian's body was no longer protected by his strength. Li Zongjio smashed the latter's heart with his hammer and plucked Gu Songtian's head off. At the same time, he took Gu Songtian's storage ring. TSK, as expected of an ancient family. Even I am jealous of their collection. The ring on Gu Songtian's hand wasn't any lower than the Southern Nation ring. Therefore, Li Zongjio kept the ring on his hand. It was a pity that the design wasn't suitable. Otherwise, Li Zongjio would have given it to Qi Yanran. A ray of light broke through the sky. Li Zongjio sat on the ground with a thump. His strength was supported by elixirs just now. At this moment he was completely exhausted. Sitting on the ground, Li Zongjio's vision turned black, and he fainted as well. 3 black figures in the sky quickly approached. The Eagle battleship, and the Blackwind Blood Shadow Condor. Li Yun and the rest were on the battleship. When they saw the forest below, their eyes were filled with shock. Within a radius of 10,000 meters, not a single blade of grass grew. Even the air was filled with turbulence. The remnants of energy made it difficult for the Eagle battleship to get close. Oh my God, what exactly happened here? When Li Yun found Li Zongjio in the sky, she jumped down and brought Li Zongjio onto the battleship. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.